You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, this past week was chill. I'm joking. No, this was a lot. I can't even hold it. I'm excited about recording this week's episode. I'm normally excited to record every episode. But this one, I'm like, this week was a moment, a paradigm shift in a lot of ways. National politics, local shit going on. But this week, it was like, yeah. Like, I feel like every season, when there's about to be a new season, there's always a shift in energy, focus, conversations, vibes. And we're getting super, super close to spring. And I do feel like there was some necessary winter cleaning that needed to take place as we enter this new season. And I noticed that happens like with shifts in the seasons, like when a new season is on the come up or on the, is emerging, there has to be something in the universe that shifts that. Like there is a shift in perspective, there's a shift in priorities, there is a new conversation, there is a reckoning. Like I don't know, that's just something I've noticed over the years. And as an avid listener of this podcast, some of you all have noticed this too. But it always happens around this time when a new season emerges, something shifts. And so we have arrived at the week of shifts. So, yeah, we got so much ground to cover. I am going to give you all the full holistic story. I know, the story, right? Like what went down. Because, let me say this. I think I do fairly a thorough job on Instagram of giving you all, the summary. But I love a podcast where I get to give the context. And so we'll get to that. But there's so many things going on. So let's clock that T. This weekend, some catch-ups on what I've been going to over the week and everything like that. I had a lovely brunch on Sunday at the Avery, which you all know is like my lovely restaurant that is just my spot. So this restaurant is co-owned by executive chef Montana Houston, who is Black. And a lot of people was like, oh, is the Avery Black owned? Yes, he's a stakeholder in the restaurant. It's co-Black owned. It's not all his, but he does share a stake in the restaurant. So, there you have it. And of course, the wonderful chef de cuisine, Jameer Wimbley Cole. They are the masterminds, culinary masterminds behind the Avery, which just opened not too long ago. Now, I was telling you all about the dinner there, the Lip Brothers. We all got a chance to have a preview there, I want to say in late January. And since then, the restaurant has been doing really well. A lot of people have been just, the traffic is there. Like they're coming for dinner, the weekends. I mean, it is the spot. They are now about to drop a brunch. And I had the pleasure of going with my fave, Charnay. That's my girl. She came with me. We had a cute little catch up. We haven't caught up in a minute, so we had to get into the tea of a lot of things. And the timing could have not been any better. But we went to the Avery for brunch. They just launched a brunch menu that we were the first to try it. They did a soft launch. They didn't broadcast it everywhere, but they did a nice little soft launch. And we was able to try their new brunch dishes. Very, very good. One interesting note is that they've cut pork out of their entire menu because it's a very diverse crowd, and apparently people don't like pork. Now, I'm a little different because I grew up in the South, so I love a good pork chop and pork bacon. But I've known this for a while. But Philly diners, specifically Black and brown diners, are very in Philly are not pork. And a lot of it is because some of them are Muslim or grew up in a Muslim culture. And so my mother-in-law is Muslim and my husband grew up, in Muslim. He doesn't identify as Muslim, but his family, part of his family on his mother's side, a lot of them, they didn't eat pork in the house. And so it's interesting because growing up, pork chops was a staple. Okay. Pork bacon, pork sausage, oink, oink, oink. Okay. But it's been interesting to come to Philly. And I've always said this, that it's so hard to find a damn good pork chop. I'm talking like a thick cut pork chop, like the ones that are meant for dinner. Because some of these little thin ones, right? That's like, that's to each their own, but that's not what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of a real, like, thick cut pork chop that, like, is juicy and been brined, and it's hard to find those. And a lot of them in Philly restaurants are specials. Like, people treat them as special. Like, it's a pork chop special where you come and you might luck out, but a pork loin, like, now Italian restaurants, they still keep pork on the menu. Because, I mean, come on. Like, where would I be out without my prosciutto? Like, I need it. I need them, pancetta. Like, what are we talking about? But I get it. So this menu, they do a lot of cool things. They have a lamb pancetta for their deviled eggs. They took out some type of gelatin for a dessert and replaced it with something else. But it's a very pork-free menu. So for those who are like, don't like pork, yada, 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 this is your place, okay? It's not even in the desserts. But nonetheless, the substitutes that they replaced it with are just as good and flavorful. And so we had this really great chicken dish. It was like a double fried chicken dish that was really, really good. And they are some of the best in making chicken outside of like the hot spots, right? They had the deviled eggs, which was great. We had it as like a brunch appetizer. They had it with caviar and this lamb pancetta that was really good. We had oysters, because why not? And then our main courses was this chicken dish that they had that was almost like a chicken and waffles, but it didn't come with waffles, but it was like, it was with like a plantains. It was really fun. It was different and it was really good. And then there was a BEC, but it wasn't a bacon eggs. It was bacon, but it wasn't pork bacon. I think it was like, it was a Wagyu beef bacon. Oh my God, that was good. And it was with these eggs and it was with cheese. It was a really great like breakfast sandwich with ciabatta bread. It was really good. That was very memorable. And then we had the chicken dish. We had the French toast, which was really good. And it was another incredible entree, because we always do the savory. Like every time I go out with my friends and we do brunch, I'm like, okay, we got to do a savory dish, a sweet dish, because I just won't eat. Like I can never go to breakfast or any brunch spot and just have, I'm just gonna have waffles, I'm just gonna have pancakes, and then like, okay, but where's the protein? Like you got to have something to balance this, that you just can't just crash. So I never feel right to just eat a whole stack of pancakes by myself. So normally what I'll do if I'm with a group of friends or whatnot, we'll split like one of the sweet dishes or something and then have our main savory dish. So like I will have like a steak and eggs and then we'll split like a French toast or something. Mr. Johnson, like we do that all the time. So yeah, it was stellar. They have a nice mimosa set, which is dope. It's for $45 and it's a whole bottle of Prosecco. And then like you choose like two different juices and it's like a nice little cute station. But if you really want to get fancy, for $150, you get the Vouv. You can get a bottle of Vouv and you can, and that's Vouv champagne and you can get the mix. Now, let me tell you a little fun fact. Real mimosa pros, folks that like understand mimosas, and my husband taught me this, bartender Barry, the etiquette of drinks. Champagne mimosas are like not a thing. Like I know people do it, but technically on a very like understanding the nature and the science behind champagne. Champagne is meant to be like actual champagne, because Prosecco is not champagne. Let's be very clear here, right? But champagne is not meant to be, had as a mimosa. But a lot of people, I think it's more of like this weird flex in their head, like, oh, I gotta have the top bottles. Yes, top bottles is fine, but top bottles separately. Like I would rather have the Vouv by itself. But there are people who do this, and it's not the fault of the restaurant. The restaurant understands its audience and its crowd, and there's people that do this, and Philly folks, this is what y'all like to do. But the truth of the matter is, mimosas was always meant to be paired with Prosecco. It was never meant to be paired with an actual really good champagne. Like you get an expensive bottle of champagne, it's meant to be drank by itself. Why would you pour any? I digress. But there are people who I was seeing at the spot, they were into it. Like they were flashing. Like I got them. Like I told my homegirl, I was like, listen, this is champagne is to be had by itself. So if you want champagne, we could do champagne. But with all the other random juices, it's like cheapens the taste of it because champagne has a very distinct taste from Prosecco. First of all, Prosecco is a sweet, sparkling wine. That's why it works well with orange juice or any types of juices because they're already sweet. It complements it's a science to it is what I'm getting at. And so, yeah, Vouv is like, it's great. Like I like it by itself. Like I like Vouv, but you don't drink that with orange juice or mix it. But there are people who really, maybe it's an acquired taste. Maybe that's like the whole hot Cheetos with pickles thing. I don't know. Like I've seen it. I've grown up seeing people have hot Cheetos with pickles and peppermint, in the Midwest. It's a thing, right? It's never been my thing, but maybe there is people who have an acquired taste where they specifically like the taste of champagne with a juice. But if you don't partake because it might make you be like, this is not tasting like a Prosecco that I'm used to. Sometimes cheaper things match better with other things. Like sometimes you don't go all the way up. Like for example, margaritas made with Patron. I'm always like, Patron, I don't think is a margarita type of, it's not a good mix. I remember my first ever open bar I went to when I was super like I think I was like a real fancy one was like 11 years ago. I think I was just fresh out of college. I went to my first like ever fancy. It was like, I went to the BET Awards and I was in this private section and all this. It was everything. But I remember being like, I want a margarita because it was like my first ever fancy, like a top shelf open bar. I was like, whoa, whoa. He was like, what do you want? You can have anything. And I was like, anything? Well, I want a Patron margarita. I thought I was doing something by saying I want a Patron margarita because most of my margaritas was made with like, John, whatever it was, but it was not that. It was not Patron. And so he looked at me, he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And I think his face was like, this is normally meant to be taken as a shot or something light. I don't really think a margarita goes well with this, but okay. The bartender knew better. And I have learned from my own lively experiences why that is not a great combo per se. It's not the best of the best. I mean, you can do it, but what we always learn, just because you can do something don't mean you should. So I learned. But nonetheless, what do I know?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Are you someone who often looks at the medical system we have today, from public health to doctors to pharmaceutical companies to science itself, and says, why should I trust these guys? Did the pandemic turn you off from the establishment viewpoint on all this? Are you someone who is a scientist or a doctor or from public health, looking to understand where things went so wrong with the public and how to rebuild that trust? Then check out Why Should I Trust You, a weekly podcast hosted by two former TV news producers joining forces with a doctor and a virologist to look at why so many Americans mistrust science and public health today and how we rebuild that trust. So check out Why Should I Trust You wherever you find your podcasts.
So yeah, the Avery was great. The brunch was awesome. This should be rolling out more over the weekends, but definitely check in, call in advance or whatnot. But I love it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful space. Those guys are still, like killing it in the kitchen, and it's highly recommended. I also went bowling. I was in the suburbs. I was in Springfield, Pennsylvania, which crazy enough, I live in like the West Philly University area. So it's not a drive from there is not too far from where I live, but it always feels like anything out of quote unquote Philadelphia feels it. But ironically, the location was not too far from if I was trying to go to Chestnut Hill. It would be longer for me to go to Chestnut Hill than go out to these little Philly suburbs or nearby. So we went to Sprouse Lanes, I think it's called. And it was my chapter, the Mighty Row chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the only single letter alumni chapter within the fraternity. We had a really great bowling gathering. It was fun. It was a great turnout. And it was Saturday night because everyone was like, oh, why are you not the masquerade ball? I'm like, listen, you go to one of those, you go once, you've had them all. Not to say I don't support, the cause, because the money goes to support the United Negro College Fund, which is a outstanding cause, helping people in HBCUs. We love to see it. But for me, cut the check, donate. The masquerade ball for me is one of my most I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I'm it's one of those events where like if you're in that world, you know everybody. Like if you're someone who, well, let me take that back. Okay, if you are someone that's in the political space, you cover politics, it's the same people. If you're somebody who wants to see elected officials, you look, your state rep hasn't been answering their phone, you can't find, the mayor, whatever the case is, go to this event, buy that ticket, and you're gonna see everybody. It's like the red carpet of political corporate CEOs in Philly. Like, that is the room. Okay, if you single and you want to mingle and you want to, listen, and you don't want to be a mistress, okay, or a side piece, because listen, women out here, they looking for their side pieces too. If you want to go somewhere and meet some great people, this is where to go. So I will always tell people that there is always something out there in the universe. And so I always tell people that different events mean different things. If you're a social climber, social climb yourself at that event. Okay. That is the place to social climb. Like, that is the place. This is the place to do social work for those people who might be like, social work, social to social climb. But yeah, I've been to enough of them. It's the same crowd, but it's a great cause. But anywho, the bowling event was dope. We was doing our big one. It was great to hang out with my frats, and it was awesome. Friday night, I went to Senator Anthony Hardy Williams' birthday party. A lot of people were like, "What?" Yes, I went to his birthday party, his 68th birthday party. And I've known Hardy Williams, so my relationship with him goes back to I've known this man for 15 years. He's known me ever since I've been in Philadelphia. He met me on Penn's campus. This was in 2010 as a freshman. This is one person in politics that has literally followed my entire career. Like, literally the start of it. Like, I came to Philly in 2010 at Penn. It is now 2025. And that's a whole decade and a half. And he literally has known me that entire time. And I don't think a lot of people know that. I talk about it. I mean, he's talked about it in different spaces, but he has we just had a synergy where he met me at an event, and I was like, he was just like the first Philly politician I looked to, and I was like, he's talking, so he's okay. Who's this guy? He's making it happen. And it's just always been a thing. And initially, so for those who don't know this, but my interest was in politics. I wanted to be an elected official. That was when I first, again, 2010, I ran for class president around the time that Barack Obama was elected the first black president of the United States. So my aspirations was wow, we got a black president. This could be me. I was class president, valedictorian, did all the things. I was coming to Penn to study politics and all that. My role changed very quickly when I fell in love with media and I fell in love with journalism. And interesting enough, the first thing I did was a college radio show. My first month as a freshman in college in 2010 called Ernestly Speaking. So it's really 15 years of Ernestly Speaking. And honestly, I think my birthday my first episode came out the week before my 19th birthday. So I was 18. It was the week before my 19th birthday. And I turned 34 in October. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe my birthday can be themed as not only my birthday, but the 15th anniversary of Ernestly Speaking, the whole idea of it. 15 years of doing this in some type of way, shape, or form. This is taking shape. It was 10 years ago that I did the TV version of this, which was on Philly Cam. And so in many ways, this is always every 5-year mark, this has evolved. It was a radio show. It was a TV show. And then 5 years ago, it was a podcast. And it's been a podcast for nearly 5 years. So all of this is so intertwined. It's crazy. But he's known me as long as then. And so he is one of the others. The other one is the other Anthony, which is Anthony Phillips, who's known me for quite as long as well, and was the groomsman on my husband's side of his wedding party. And so those are two that I've known for my entire time in Philly. Other people have come along the way, but so to be invited to his 68th birthday, for him to come to the gala last year, For other people, they're like, oh my God, I'm surprised. For us, it's nothing to us. His wife, Shari, is incredible. She's a wonderful woman. And, it's been a journey. So he had a great birthday party. It was Cowboy Carter themed. He had a cowboy hat on. He had the look. He had the background. It was like it was almost like a Beyonce concert. Like he had the flames out. I mean, it was wild. And it was in the suburbs. I was in the suburbs a lot this weekend. Like, I don't know Philly suburbs. Okay. I think I was in Delco at that event. It was at the Oats dining hall, banquet hall. But it was a good time. Everybody was there. So I felt like I was killing two birds with one stone. Like I did the whole political who's of the room Friday night. So then Saturday night I could go and be with my frat brothers and not have to go to masquerade ball. So, first world problems. But he was great. It was a lovely birthday party. And I was very happy that, he had a great table. It was myself, it was my husband, it was Andre Carroll, who's a state rep, who's my good friend. And like, yeah, it was a good crowd. It was a nice vibe. People were nice. People acted nice at Senator Williams' party. So yeah, we love it. So, I went to another party that was also in the suburbs. So this is Suburbs Week. This is Suburbs Week on Ernestly Speaking. I was in Wynmore, which is a lovely suburb, to attend the lovely house party. Okay. This was the ultimate house media party. And it was at my bestie, my good friend, and just all around badass, Nicole Cashman of Cashman Associates. She threw a lovely media party at her, I want to call it a mansion, because that house was huge. Fabulous. Okay. You're talking like, listen, it was a nice ass house. The neighborhood was popping. It was a beautiful house. She threw a grand house party. Mr. Johnson and I went. The Lip Brothers came. We showed up and showed out. I had to pull out a badass outfit for that house. I was so happy because I was like, okay, am I overdressed? Oh no. You all loved it. I ate severely. We all ate. It was a lovely party. She had some of her clients. She had all types of Philly-based companies. There was cakes made by New June Bakery, which has a new location. New June Bakery had cakes. There was All Aboard Candy, which is one of her employees. Alyssa has this candy company, and that candy was addicting. Oh, that was so good. Juliet, that lovely peach liqueur I used to talk about that just launched in Philly a couple months ago. There was these cocktails made by them. There was a gin company called Sweet Gwendolyn that is a great gin for martinis. Now, y'all know I'm a blue coat loving, I'm a blue coat lover. Blue coat I love because it's, to me, it's very versatile. It can go with different types of drinks because of that citrus forward take versus juniper forward take. But Sweet Gwendolyn, I feel like, is a gin that is like really good for like martini. Like if you're a martini person, Sweet Gwendolyn is a great match for that. There was Feast Your Eyes Catering, which never misses a beat. There was all types of stuff going on. So many giveaways, bags, swag. It was a who's of Philly influencers. It was a very great party. It was a nice party. It was nice to be in the room. It was nice to see other people in media. Miguel from NBC 10 was there. That's my boy. Everybody was just having a good time. And the DJ, oh yes, that DJ was also very fun. It was a very, she just is the hostess with the mostest is what I called her. The hostess with the mostest. I believe in that. Like, she's the hostess with the mostest. She knows how to just do her thing. She just knows the room. That room, I mean, she was fabulous. My bestie, Michelle Conron, she was there, of course. We love the Cashman VP. Everybody was just having a good time. And yeah, like, that's a house party. Like, that's a house. Like, I'm just thinking about it. Like, she had bottles of Veuve Rosé. She had a zebra room, not with actual zebras, like zebra wallpaper. Yeah. Like, if you ever think about MTV Cribs, it would be like that. Like, MTV Cribs should come to her house. Like, that's the kind of house. How I'm Living, that was like the BT version. Not as good as MTV Cribs for millennials who remember this show. But like, that house could be a house that could be on MTV Cribs where they come in and she got the different rooms. It was a party. It was a party. Shout to everybody. Shout to oh my goodness. Just the cocktails. I'm just thinking about the cocktails with the candy lips. I'm like, I'm like, ugh, the photos were luscious, which you all were like getting into the photos. We ate severely. We snapped. The Lip Brothers. I mean, who's touching us? We are your faves. But it was just so nice. I'm still like on cloud nine, just thinking about that whole party and just everybody was there. Shout out to Union Forge Vodka. They did their thing. It was just fabulous. No notes. 15 over 10. No notes. Yeah, but overall, it was a very good time. So I want to sidebar. So in my IG story over the weekend before the reckoning, we're going to call it the reckoning. Before the reckoning happened, there was a op-ed that came out, not op-ed, it was a review in Philly Mag by Jason Sheehan, who is an incredible food critic. He did a review over Gus's cheesesteaks in Reading Terminal. He said that it was overrated, which prompted a lot of crazy hate messages and crazy stuff on the internet. And because you all are weird with me, I'm going to start saying that. One of an avid fan of me, said this a while back. I was like, I really like Ernest's work, and I want to share his stuff, but you all, the way that you all are weird about him is too much. And so now I've always taken that way that she phrased it. I was like, that's a good way of putting it, because I would have said motherfuckers be fucking. No, I'm joking. She just simply said, the way that y'all weird about him. So that has become my tagline to describe when people just do the most. Because some of y'all are a little weird about me. I'm not going to hold you. And I'm not saying it's a good way. Like, people are just fucking weird. Like, really weird. Like, I don't know how I get in conversations that has nothing to do with me. Like, you could be, like, I just feel like, now, I'm going to say this loosely, but it just sticks. Like, I feel like there are certain people where, like people put Beyonce's name in something that has nothing to do with Beyonce. Beyonce be minding her business. Another H-Town. Another A-Leaf Elsick High School attendee. Okay. Love to put Beyonce's name in some shit. We'll go, Normani getting engaged. Oh, which is great. Normani's engaged. We love this for her, right? And Sierra play matchmaker, and it's a lovely story between the pop girls. Somebody said, well, looks like Beyonce is going to have competition. First of all, what are you doing? Like, first of all, why can't we just let 3 Black women have lovely husbands and have love and Black love and be joyful? Let's start there. 2, what are we comparing? Like, Normani is daughter, like Beyonce's mother. Like, what is that? And second, why is Beyonce in this conversation? It's a Sierra Normani conversation that is a beautiful story. Why is Beyonce in it? Beyonce literally barely responds to shit. She lives in her own world. Her mother is literally her person. Like, if you want to know how Beyonce really feels, go to her mother's Instagram. Like, Miss Tina knows, do not play. She's the one really telling you how Beyonce really feels. And I have someone in my life, like, I'm not going to tell people who this person is, but I literally have somebody in my life, in my friend circle, that literally is playing the role of Tina Knows in my dynamic. Because I do talk for myself and tell how I feel about things. But this particular friend, and they're not a lip brother, even though I will say second place will go to Jamarcus, but this is a girl, and she knows who she is. She literally is the Tina Knows in the friend circle, where if you want to know how I feel about something, she's going to tell it. She's going to be like, my friend don't care. They act, she's going to say the thing. And she knows who she is. She'll let you, if you want to know how I really feel about something or someone or something, she will let it out in her own way. And people who know her know, oh yeah, she's the one. If you want to know how he really feels about certain things, that one right there, she's gonna let you know. I think Tina is that way for Beyonce. I think her mom is that way for her. But like, some people, I just don't know. And so a lot of times my name will be in conversations that have nothing to do with me. Like, nothing to do with me. And not even on a like relevancy wave. It will just be like verbal vomit. Like, oh, this event's happening. I wonder if Ernest is going to say something. Like, what? Girl, I'm not even checking. Like, you're not even in my orbit. Like, I don't even know who you, like, what the fuck? It's like that, and I don't read Reddit shit. I hate Reddit. I've been off of Reddit years ago. I never had a Reddit account, but I remember like years ago, I made the mistake of like Googling myself in Reddit, and it was just a bunch of bullshit. And I was like, yeah, I won't do this again. But like, I would just say that I'm happy that I stand on my shit with my real name, and that when I talk my shit, I put a name on it. A lot of people are weird because you will talk your shit, but you won't see me and you won't catch these not hands. Okay, lawyer, I can imagine my lawyer be like, don't say catch hands. Catch words. Catch these words. You won't catch these words because that's all I'm doing is words. I haven't put hands on anybody. You don't want these hands. And I don't want these hands for you. So there is no violence. We are all about peace. Yes, yes. No violence because we fight with words, not hands. Seriously, no hands. But words, because that's what we do. We use words. I use words. I'm a wordsmith. I'm a writer. That's what I do. I speak, and that's what I do. I say words. So nobody wants to catch these words in these streets with me. So what they'll do is they'll hide behind keyboards and thumb, and that's fine because I think there is a beauty in the fact that most people are smart enough not to come at me sideways. And there's always some people that do, and they fuck around, they find out. So I kind of like that most of my like haters are like anonymous. Like that's bad bitch status. But you can have anonymous haters. Like, oh, trust me, I have regular haters in the real world, but it's nice that most haters would rather be not like you are in shame. You have to hide yourself. You could never go out your own limb to speak and say my name out your mouth in public in a space and form. You don't want that smoke. You don't want that work. You don't want it because it doesn't serve you anything, right? So you would rather, I get it, you would rather, hide behind something to do it. You, like we know, like, look, I tell people always say, name a very cowardly hate group, the KKK, because they all here with masks. Like you all got hoods on. You guys got white hoods on hiding your face. All that white privilege and power, and yet you still have to hide your face because you was afraid. Like you had to get on a white horse in an all-white outfit and hide your face. And I'm supposed to be scared of you like you're like a fucking ghost. And so that's the thing about hatred and bigotry. It's like the internet and with the nominating of folks, it's just basically KKK digital. Like you have to hide behind anonymity. I would rather you be anonymous hater. Like, yes, please hide yourself. And I don't even have to address you because I don't even know where it's coming from. Because that's how scared you are. Yeah, I'm not afraid. I'm never going to hide behind some invisible keyboard. I am going to tell you what I feel, how I feel. And here's the thing. If you really feel strongly about what you have to say, then you won't be hiding if that's how you really feel. But see, that's the problem. Normally when people are hiding in that type of way, could be a red flag. Be a red flag. If you want to talk your shit, especially if you're talking shit. Like if you feel like you have a good point, just say the point. Why? Like I've had unpopular opinions. I'm still living. I'm still breathing. Like people can disagree with people. Period. So I go into this to say that this cheesesteak, Jason Sheehan put his name on it. He's a food critic. He's like, look, I think the cheesesteak is overrated. Now I always tell people with the overrated conversations, overrated does not mean something is horrible and bad. Sometimes overrated can just mean, you know what, you all are acting like this is the best thing to hit the market. And I'm here to tell you that y'all are hyping this up too much. And here's my response to that. Fair. Gus's cheesesteak, I've had it. I've gotten a chance to have it. See, I try not to make big, bold proclamations. But I always tell you, I keep it real. If I really love something, I'm going to post it on my timeline. If I don't like it, you won't hear me talk about it unless, there's a relevant conversation. A lot of people will assume I haven't had this thing. I didn't go to this place. I didn't buy this. I didn't eat this. Yada, yada, yada. No, I go eat a lot. I go out a lot. I am always slipping and sneaking. I have little folks, friends of mine, I will have send out, different people that I would say, can you pick this up for me? Mr. Johnson goes out, and now y'all done identified him. His cute, glasses is out here just shaking up the table. A lot of you all do not know, but I literally will not go to certain places because it has gotten a little weird where people will take a picture and say, look who's here. Like I had somebody did this where I went to a certain sweet shop it's a shop that sells sweet things. I will not name what it is and what type, because, people lie. Boy, will be looking like. I went to a place and got something sweet. Somebody took a picture over the counter that I went and ordered it. They posted it somewhere and was like, oh, he's here. And I think they was anticipating I was going to like post about it or whatever, but I wasn't really crazy about it. It was okay. Like, there's some people that everywhere they go, they're going to post, they're going to promote a place. But I just, I feel like I don't want to say, because here's the thing, I'm not an influencer. I'm influential, let's be clear. But I'm not an influencer. I mean, like, no one's paying me to post any content. Like, if I don't like something, I just don't like it. And that's it. If I like it, I'm going to post about it. I'm going to say, this is great. But I'm not an employee. I'm not a marketing for any of these brands in that type of way. So if I anything that I like, I'm gonna yell it to the rooftops. I'm big on promoting things that I love and not the things that I hate when it comes to products. People, policies, no, I gotta speak out. If I don't think that the Trump administration is doing a good job, I'm not gonna be silent about that, y'all. Like, that's not how this works. Yeah. See, y'all are wrong. Y'all like to be silent about the wrong things. Like, well, I just want to spread positivity. No. If the Supreme Court is infringing upon our lives, yeah, we need to talk about why we don't like that. But if there's a little bakery or a little shop or something that we don't like, do we have to say that we don't like it? No, we just don't talk about it and let other people figure it out, right? But if any of my friends come to me and ask me, like, up front, like, hey, should I go here? Psst, no, don't go there. Psst. If anybody DMs me about something personally and say, yo, should I check out that spot? I'm going to just tell them my opinion based on my taste. I'm going to say, look, for me, it wasn't popping. For you, it might be. Depends on your mood. But I'll never lie. If I don't like something, I just won't talk about it on my platform when it comes to food and products. Unless there is something problematic about the place beyond that, right? Like, if it's a bar that's racially discriminating against people, yeah, I'm going to write about that. I'm going to say something about that. But if it's just like overpriced or just what, I'm just going to ignore it. So when you are telling me you ain't been here yet, you need to come here. No, I'm not crazy about it. Sometimes if it's something out in the far suburbs or something, now maybe I have not been. But anything in Philly, like Philly, continental Philly, yeah, I most likely have been. I try to go within the first 3 months to have an opinion. So, I'll just say that much. But if you don't hear me talk about it, 9 times out of 10, either I didn't like it or it just didn't necessarily like rise to the occasion for me to go, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. So that's just my way. This Gus's cheesesteak situation, I've been before. I didn't really talk too much about it because I wasn't impressed. I just was like, I would try it. I just was like, it's okay. It's all right. I always felt like it was so I have this theory, and a lot of people are talking about this, but in my mind, I feel like there is very different types of cheesesteaks in Philadelphia. There is what I call the cheesesteak, the very simple, basic, standard cheesesteak that you can get from a Poppy store, you can get from a food truck, right? It's very simple. It's the most basic Omaroso roll. It's going to have some level of like a really chopped steak. We don't know what type of steak it is, but it's some type of ground meat, like not ground meat, but like some type of steak, some type of meat. It could be sirloin, it could be whatever, but it's going to be some type of chopped up meat. Not sliced and all that, but just, that chopped up. It's going to have American cheese or provolone cheese. I don't know what this whiz shit is. And real Philadelphians, or black Philadelphians, I would say for myself, that live in the city, I've never heard them be like, I want whiz. I just don't know where the whiz thing is at. That is such a very, I know whiz is just like, what are we, 5? Like, I think whiz is fading out of the cheesesteak conversation. And I've been for 15 years. My entire adult life. We ain't gonna act like, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been fucking 15 years, okay? I done seen Philly culture evolve over the past nearly 20 years, okay? 15 years in the biddy, as the kids would say. I think whiz is just not it anymore, right? So it would be American cheddar provolone, right? That's the standard basic. Grilled onions or no grilled onions, it's either or, but that's what we're working with, right? Okay, so you got that out the way. Then I have what is called the gourmet Philly cheesesteak. Now, this is a little bit of an upgrade, right? So you're going to get like a seeded hoagie roll, fine bread. We're not on a rosso roll at this point. We done upgrade a little bit, right? Now we're going to use ribeye steak, okay? There's no question. It's top tier ribeye, okay? Now, you might see a situation where somebody might go, well, caramelized onions. Ooh. And you're going to have provolone, okay? We're not doing cheddar. We're not doing American. Whiz is out of the conversation. It is going to be provolone. It's going to be Cooper, sharp provolone, but this is an upgraded gourmet cheesesteak, okay? And then you have what I call the modern day trendy Philly cheesesteak, which is what I call the tourist trap. This is the one that I call the Angelo's version, which is the toasted seeded bun, the ribeye, and Cooper. Cooper only. They use Cooper. That is what I call that is the I think of Bradley Cooper when I think of Cooper, but like that because he likes that cheesesteak type of style. But that is the new Philly trendy cheesesteak. Is that the Angelo's cheesesteak? And let me be clear, that cheesesteak is good. Now, here's the thing: I'm a more of a traditional cheesesteak, girl. Like I look, the Angelo's, I can eat that maybe once or twice a year. That's a very elevated cheesesteak. She's fancy. She's just, she's good, but I don't necessarily know if that is the signature Philly cheesesteak. I don't feel like it is. I feel like it's a special type, but it's good though. It's good. Like I will not deny those guys in there make a good one. Now that I can order off of Uber Eats, I'm in love. So I have no shade for that cheesesteak. However, I feel like a lot of places are trying to copy the Angelo cheesesteak situation. And I feel like we have an oversaturation of the same type of thing. It does get a little like, And so I feel like with this Gus's cheesesteak, they're making a Timu, because I never shopped there. Was it Timu? A Timu version of the Angelo's cheesesteak. That's just how I feel. I feel like it's not bad. It's just that I know what you all are trying to do, but I just feel like there's a lane, and I just feel like the lane should be where it's at rather than trying to put it somewhere else. That's my opinion. Now, a lot of the supporters on that side have said things like, oh, well, we're selling out, so I guess no one cares and reads what you got to say. First of all, that's not how food reviews work, y'all. Food reviews and critics, it's a type of writing. The art of criticism is a dying art in Philadelphia, and it's also in America, because people just don't listen to album reviews as much and food. And there's a lot of reasons why. I get it, because there's a lack of diversity, and there is a lot of just one type pointed. So I do get the criticism of criticism. However, I think people sometimes forget what the focus is. It's not necessarily to make people completely hate something and not support something. Sometimes it could be a situation where you have a different perspective about something, and it's just to give the viewers a different way of thinking about consideration. So when I read Jason Sheehan's review, it was more like, okay, yeah, I think Gus's cheesesteak is okay. Like if I'm in Reading Terminal and I want a cheesesteak, I'll get one if I can get in the line. But am I going to run all the way down, from West Philly? No. Why would I not do that? Because Jim's West, baby, is right there, not too far away. So I would go to Jim's West and stay put. I mean, there's also Saad's Halal, which is a couple of blocks up from me. Saad's Halal is right over there. I got two great cheesesteak institutions in my own backyard. I don't need to go all the way down there for that. You know what I'm saying? So I think there was a conversation about like what we give marketing to. The reason why Gus has got a lot of publicity, they got a great machine. They're in Reading Terminal. The foot traffic is going to be there naturally. There's a lot of buzz. Places like that, it hasn't even been around for like a year yet. But there's been so much hype because of the location, the people behind it. And so in many ways, when you are coming like a big blockbuster type of film, you're going to open yourself up to more critique because you're taking so much of the public's attention. So like, yeah, Angelo's opens itself up to more criticism because it is one of the big dogs in the cheesesteak game. So I really do get annoyed when businesses like that are like, oh, little old us, we're just a little business trying to stop it. Stop it. You all have access to resources, attention, exposure that a lot of small businesses don't get. So you got a team that demands it and wants publicity, wants press. Like you got all these stakeholders. Stop it. And as somebody who wrote the book, The Case for Cancel Culture, I talk about the role of power and how people oftentimes will minimize their power in situations where they're being critiqued, but then blow up their power in situations when they're being praised. It don't work that way. Either you got it or you don't, right? You can't play little train, little engine that could when people are saying, but then play big dog in other spaces. We're going to talk about that theme later in this conversation. You see how I'm lining this up? Because this is a theme that I see a lot of white people do. It is, I ain't gonna hold you. White people, y'all love to act like y'all just some, little old engine that could, victimhood. It's also part of the fragility and the victimhood narrative that often allows people to placate from accountability, right? To use all these different isms and attributes to try to shield themselves from serious conversations that are uncomfortable but necessary. I'll just put that there. So the narrative is this. I don't think it's the worst cheesesteak in the world, but I don't think it's the best. I think that it's okay. I think that a lot of the attention that has drove people to go out there along lines, I do think it's a little bit of hype. It's a little overhyped and it is a little overrated. I think, they're doing what they're doing. And to be honest, when you're in Reading Terminal creating that kind of food, I don't necessarily know if you're going to you can even be in the GOAT conversation. I don't know if you could be in the best of best conversation. Because of just, it's so much hype, but they're going to make a lot of money. Look, McDonald's is not the best hamburger spot, but it probably sells more hamburgers than anywhere else in the world. Doesn't make it good. It's good. Tyler Perry is putting out a movie every other month. Don't mean the movie's good, but people have gotten confused with success. People think that if you make a lot of money, that means you're successful. No, you could be a good business person without being. Listen, Tyler Perry is a great businessman. Is he a great filmmaker? I don't think so. You could be a great business owner, but are you a good restaurateur? Is your food good? Not necessarily, right? So two things can be true. Like Pat's and Geno's will never close down, I don't think. Are they the best cheesesteaks in Philly? No, I don't think so. But you know what? They probably sell more cheesesteaks than everybody else. Maybe Angelo's got them beat, maybe. But they that's just what it is. So I just think we can live in a world where you can have critical acclaim and success. You could have monetary success. You can have different levels of success. So that success is subjective. But it's okay for people to say, hey, this is not that, if they do it in a respectful way that doesn't make ad hominem attacks and everything else. So I feel like the critique was fair. Heavy wears the crown. That's my thoughts on it. So, But let's get to hot topics. So one of the big things that has happened is the Democratic Party is continuing its flop era. The government shutdown, betrayal, led by, I guess we say minority Senate leader, Chuck Schumer, because they're no longer the majority. He's no longer the majority leader now. But Chuck Schumer decided to basically side with the Republicans, with I believe 8 others, to basically make this decision. He is 74 years old. He caved, and now we don't have a shutdown, but it's not looking good. Chuck Schumer, basically caved in, sided with the Republicans on this budget situation. Now it's up, and in many ways, Chuck Schumer underestimated Mike Johnson, who is the leader of the House. Apparently, the GOP Speaker of the House forced, this is from reports from MSNBC, but pretty much, he forced New York's top Democrat to make one of the toughest calls of his Senate career. He basically called his bluff. And it's a lot. There were 2 camps. There were people that wanted to fight Trump tooth and nail. which they were down with the government shutdown, but there's been arguments that, oh, if we did the shutdown, then it was gonna hurt. It was gonna hurt Democrats. It was gonna hurt the American people more. But then supporting it basically legitimizes, some people argue, will legitimize, this narrative that Chuck Schumer wanted people to believe, which is the one he argues that it's going to, legitimize the shit that Trump is doing. And that says something. So it's it's a lot. I have various thoughts, personally. It's tough, right? It's a damn if you do, damn if you don't. For me, I feel like, there's a lot of you know what I think? I think that in many ways, I think Democrats should have struck a deal with the Republicans, or at least struck some deal. There could have been some deal that could have been discussed, because they needed 8 Democrats. Like, this could not be a 50-50. They needed to have a 2/3. And so there was going to take senators. It would have taken Democratic senators, 8 Democratic senators, to help the Republicans achieve this, to avoid this government shutdown. If you have that kind of leverage, Chuck Schumer should have negotiated. He was not going to, if they needed 8, which it took for them to be able to get this done. If you're going to have something like that, if you're going to have this huge debate, this huge fight or whatever like that, then why not leverage your power and negotiate? Like, there's things in that budget that could have been fought for. And I think that's the problem. I think that Schumer, in many ways, miscalculated that Speaker of the House Johnson was good at playing political hardball. It's just, I think there was a lot there. And a lot of people, the Senate Majority Leader, who is the Republican John Thune, I think they played a game. I think they played an interesting game. But Johnson, I just think House Speaker Johnson really, he's the one, that people have underestimated. And a lot of people that I know are just not happy. I think a lot of people are not happy. I think a lot of people are frustrated. I think a lot of people feel betrayed. Democrats just does not have, I think this might cost him. This impacts his legacy. And even with Chuck Schumer doing that, playing that dumb game, he's going to regret it. And honestly, if I was AOC, I would be somewhere, I don't know if it's AOC, but somebody is going to primary Chuck Schumer. I don't see him. I mean, his primary comes up, I think, next year. Chuck Schumer is getting primaried. There is a strong case for him to. Enough Democrats are pissed off. Democrats, the polling of how most Americans feel about Democrats, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for Democrats. And the sad part is that Republicans right now there are some things they got going on that also isn't working out for them. But the problem is Democrats keep fucking up that you can't even keep up with the fucking up. Like, there are some major developments happening within the Republican MAGA machine, and we can't even talk about that because of the fact that the Democrats make these very public fuck ups. Like, I just wonder if Democrats would have said, no, you want to shut this government down, We're not about to let you do it. But they're saying that, Schumer's claiming, oh, Elon Musk would have wanted the government shut down so they could really shut their ass, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, the government shut down, if it would have because of Republicans' crazy antics, that would have not necessarily been the fault of Democrats because of what they was proposing. So to concede to this almost legitimized the fuckery. But Schumer's going to find out the hard way. I think it just does not look good for him. I don't see. I just don't see. I mean, even you thinking about the minority leader of Congress on the Democratic side, Hakeem Jeffries. He doesn't even agree with him. So there's a lot of people who was a part of that. I mean, the Democrats are divided. They're in disarray right now. But that's yeah, it's not a good look. But that brings me to my other aspect of it. While Democrats are making major blows, making some dumb decision, I'm starting to see some other stuff begin to come into play. I know that people are mad at the Democrats. I get it. This government shutdown shit, this budget shit is a hot mess. But there is a lot of fallout that's happening around DOGE, okay? This entire regime under Elon Musk is not being popular in certain states. There's been some Republican Congress people that's had town halls, and these are predominantly white, rural, middle class, working class folks that are like complaining. They're upset. I think in all these cuts, people forget about the VA. Like, there are veterans who have served this country and are now losing benefits behind these cuts. Like, these cuts are cutting deep, deep, and people are getting pissed, okay? Because the assault on Social Security that people are predicting Elon Musk is about to come and do is going to be a disaster for everybody. What I think people don't understand is that a lot of folks are getting pushed. This anti-diversity, this DEI shit got Christians, Christian, faith groups feeling some type of way. This Arlington Cemetery that has a rich, diverse history, there's some impact on that. There's a lot of shit happening right now that folks are like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it's a problem. It's a problem. And I think some people are not recognizing. Mm, 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 mm. It, so many frustrations, and I think one of the things that really what tells me a lot about this entire experience is people say, we're going to need to, take some tough things to change this government. But I think people really realize, like, actually, most Americans, a lot of folks was cutting their nose to spite their face. Oh, cut DEI, cut this, cut that. Not realizing that this whole DEI wasn't necessarily benefiting black people the way they thought it was. I mean, granted, some black people benefited, but see, racism in this country is so strong that even the slightest benefit or opportunity provided to a black person, people want to shut it all down. But they don't realize that the majority of people that benefited from DEI programs were not black folks. And so your obsession with trying to, like, quote unquote, scream meritocracy was actually hurting the very white women and other folks in your spaces and communities that you wasn't even thinking about. I just want to be clear about that. Like, there's a lot of white gay men who are like, oh shit, this DEI stuff, it's like a lot of other people who, because listen, the gag for me is that in America, even in systems that are meant to help marginalized people, there is a level of disparity and racism that still embeds itself within even the very programs that's supposed to help us, right? So, like, when we talk about funding, diverse communities, funding, inequity programs, these programs will tend to benefit people who are the furthest from darker skin. Like, the colorism is very real, right? Like, they're always going to find a way to include other people that are not necessarily who people envision benefiting. So when you ask people who benefits from DEI, the face of that looks like some black man or woman, right? Black man or black woman, right? Or somebody that's Latino. They're going to always think it's people of color. But when you actually start looking at these CEO, these Fortune 500 companies, everything else, it's actually women. But then you start asking what type of women, mostly white women. You start saying LGBTQ, is it intersectional? It's mostly white gay men or women, right? They're checking off different boxes to include it. You talk about the disability community. The disability community, while there is nuances and intersections there, they're thinking of specific types of people that will lean on straight and white versus other groups. And that's been something we've known for a long time. Like they expanded the pot of diversity to always find a way to shortcut black and brown people in the process. And so when these DEI things got cut, a lot of people are starting to speak out because they're realizing, oh snap, that's my job that got cut. And that's not, Rodney's position, sweetheart. That's Becky's. That's Karen's. That's not, people like me. People always think, oh, you benefited from DEI, blah, 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 blah. You would laugh. You would laugh if you knew how so many of the things that I've gotten programs I've gotten into, I didn't even qualify for certain things because they already filled that quota. Like what brought me in the room with a lot of internships that were meant for quote unquote diversity, I didn't even get the benefit from in my college years because of the fact that I went to an Ivy League school. So they were very specific about what schools and what type of networks you had to be in because my name did not give the distinction. They didn't necessarily ask for race. And so there's a lot of interesting tea that has come out of all of this. And I think no one talks about that enough. But it's a big deal. It's a lot of things shaking and shaping up. There's a lot of interesting changes and transformations that are happening. And I think to me, not enough people are talking about that politically. But I think the roosters are coming, the hatch. I think the chickens are coming to roost, and I don't even understand why Elon Musk, like his company doesn't, his stakeholders don't want him coming back. His stakeholders don't even want him. They don't want him involved in government. Like Tesla sales are taking a hit. It's so bad that the damn president had to literally have a car, what they call it, a trunk shop. I would call it a trunk shop, but like they literally had to have trucks and like his cars outside the White House lawn as promo to try to support his little failing business. And it's like, Trump, you really trying to help your homies? Like what kind? I mean, the professionalism is out the door. And even with the fact that I tell people all the time that we're in an interesting space now where even with the issues around deportation, courts are pushing back. Courts are beginning to say, you cannot do this. And now there are reports saying that the Trump administration is ignoring the judge's order to turn deportation plans around. And that's from ABC News. Like Trump is beginning to ignore the courts. There was a verbal order from the chief judge of the Washington, D.C. District Court, James Boasberg, who explicitly told the government to turn around any aircrafts that had already departed the country if it was still in the air. The Trump administration on Sunday asked the D.C. Circuit Court for a stay of Boasberg's ruling. Like, they're literally they're like at this point ignoring judges' orders. So we're gonna we're in an interesting period. Like now it's like, is Trump even giving a fuck what the judges are saying? I just want people that we're already on that we're on that peripheral of like this president might say fuck the courts, fuck the system. Where's impeachment? Articles of impeachment, who's gonna assemble? Like, what are we doing here? But you got damn senators out here talking about, oh, blah, 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 blah. Come on. Mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. A lot is going on. Mm-mm. So, yeah, it's a lot going on. It's a lot, and I'm just processing all of all that's what's happening, Mm, 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 mm. So yes, but moving along. It's been 5 years since the pandemic, and a lot of people have been doing a recap of memories. Listen, the only memory, well, I have a lot of memories, but the one memory this is so random, and I know this might be, again, a first world problem, but everybody's like going back and thinking about the pandemic, reflecting on those 5 years. The one thing that I remember the most from that entire experience is that, um, mm, mm, I think the big thing is the haircuts. I think it's the haircuts. It's the period of time of not getting a haircut. I think that was the big thing for me, not getting a haircut. Not being able to go to a barber. I mean, I was at home. We was all at home. But I get a haircut at this point. I get a haircut every week. It used to be every other week, but now because of my schedule, I'm like, I've become one of those guys. I'm getting a haircut every week. I can't be without a fresh cut. You know, I can see a lot of I'm seeing some interesting things. Um, mm, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I missed the haircut. I missed the lack of hair. I remember not having a haircut for a period of time because like I look at these pictures and I don't want to look at these pictures. Like I'm like, oh my God. I remember the haircuts. I remember Lysol. I remember I bought a bunch of Lysol before people. I always see this is why I stock up. You know, I, I literally have a bunch of like hand sanitizer, Germex. I still got like I listen. Ever since then, I will never not be like I for whatever reason. I remember like 2 weeks before the government shut down, there was this crazy CVS sale. And y'all know I love CVS. It was a crazy CVS sale with Lysol. And I just always, anytime I see a good sale, even if I don't, if it's something I feel like I need, I will buy it. I'm that kind of shopper. Where it's not like I don't like something and because it's a good sale on it, I'm gonna buy this. Does that make sense? If that makes like I don't know how to describe it, but um how do I describe this? Like it's one of those things where you go to a store, you have a list of things you're intending to buy. These are things that you need to buy for your current week or whatever the case is. But then you'll see something that like, oh, you know what? I do buy this typically. I do like this. I don't need this now, but because there's a sale on it, well, this is already something I would buy anyway. Well, let me go ahead and buy it since there's a crazy sale because the next time I'm going to need it, I don't have to restock on it. So that's how I end up spending more than I need to when I go grocery shopping. I was at CVS. I was doing my little shop, and there was this crazy sale on Lysol, and I just was like, yeah, I need some Lysol. I got one can in the house, but this sale is crazy. So I stocked on like about maybe 6 of these cans. It was like a buy two, get one free, something like that. And I did it like 2 times. So about 6 of these tall, big cans of Lysol. Those cans of Lysol lasted me the entire quarantine phase of the pandemic. My mind, my something in me. And I'm just like, is the government giving us a sign? I don't know. But it was just so random. But we had it. And I already had hand sanitizer. Like I always have a bunch of, so that never really ran out like that. So I had some Germex on deck. I had a big old gallon thing that I used to refill. So we were cool on the Germex. You know, wipes were always abundant. One thing I did pick up on after the pandemic, one thing that I now have with me on all the times, wet wipes. I never really was a wet wipe girl. Like I never was a wet wipe person, like a wet wipe person. Like, I just, I had hand sanitizer. I thought that was enough. I am big on wet wipes now. I'm big on wet wipes. I'm big on wet wipes. That's one thing for sure. Um, Other things that I do, I do keep masks around. I don't mask all the time. I don't mask everywhere I go and things. But like if I go on a plane or if I'm in certain spaces, I keep some mask on deck, especially when I travel on planes. That is a big one. I will say that is one big thing I do. Things I'm not crazy about. the QR code menu thing is with us, y'all. People, once they found out that you can QR code your way, they like, look, y'all out here using y'all phones to take pictures of your food and be, foodies. Well, then use that damn phone to do the QR code. I ain't mad at them because, making menus, it's a lot of work, especially given if you're switching out seasons, changing menu items. You don't want to waste paper. So I get it, but it's just nothing. I mean, I do like I do like a physical menu, but what other things did I pick up during podcast? I mean, not podcasting. Well, I did pick up podcasting during the pandemic. YouTube. I went back to really watching YouTube a lot, and I do enjoy YouTube. I used to be a YouTuber. I was deep into YouTube back in the day, like over 10 years ago, back in the day. But I stopped for a while. But then there's been a rebirth of YouTube where I really do enjoy watching YouTube, like informational stuff. Like I don't go into the stupid interwebs, but I do enjoy some YouTube stuff. And I got a TV in the living room, big screen TV in the living room. And so like I can watch I like watching. And part of it's because now I'm on YouTube channels a lot. Like I'm on people's shows and stuff frequently. So I go to watch my stuff and then I fall down a rabbit hole of watching other things. And then that was the birth, okay, of the Love and Hip Hop compilation videos that will be like 3 hour too long recaps and stuff. That's like my obsession. Like that's something that I do. Listen, I'm into that. That's where my habit for watching YouTube while writing and doing things and watching those compilation videos took off, because there was a hiatus where Love and Hip Hop was not running because everything was like studios were shutting down everything for the pandemic. So these compilation videos had me get caught up on what was going on so that when the show came back on air, I was fully invested. So that is one thing that the pandemic I do remember. I remember planning my wedding during the pandemic. I remember, in the throes of writing my first book during the pandemic. Like these are memories. But yeah, it's been 5 years and this country still don't know how to be is still not prepared. If there was to be another pandemic, hopefully not, knocking on wood. Okay, knocking on wood. Never got COVID, still have never gotten COVID, which is a blessing. But I just feel like if there was another pandemic, this country would not be ready. Because people still don't believe science. I mean, do you remember the whole sea moss era where people was eating sea moss and making that like a trend, when people believed all these stupid conspiracy theorists about the pandemic still do? People were scared to get vaccinations, even though act like people was going to die, but thank goodness a lot of people did do it. So now we're in a different place. But there's just so much we learned about society during that time. And I thought we were going to be better people, but we just went back to being the same shit we were. I mean, during the pandemic, people got smart enough to not vote for Trump for a second term, got out the pandemic, forgot he was the reason why shit was bad, and then reelected him. So, racial uprisings, racial justice. Remember all those book talks, all those book clubs, all those people that supported Black-owned businesses? Yeah, look what happened to that. I mean, it was a moment, and then it became literally a moment. It was supposed to be a movement, but then white people. So, yeah. That's what I remember. I remember that. Moving along. Wendy Williams is getting justice. My girl is sounding good. How you doing? Listen, people have been asking about Wendy Williams. I listen, Wendy has had her problems, okay? She's not perfect, but none of us are. I just never believed the hype that Wendy was just completely out of her mind. I never believed that for one bit. And it's sad to find out that her son might not be the best son that one would have thought he would be, because we know she loved Lil Hunter. And for that to be what's being said out there is kind of sad. It seems like everybody's fucked up except her niece that she's been with. Like, that's the only woman who she's always been with lately. She seems the only one that's her biggest advocate. She's taking mental tests. She's passing them. Like, free with Wendy. Like, they're trying to really do this to our girl like Britney. Here's the thing. This is what I think about both Wendy and I think about Britney. I think that both of them need to get full control of their finances and their lives. They deserve space. Do they need to be back in the entertainment industry, spotlight, anything like that? I don't necessarily think that's the case. Like, everybody's like, oh, Wendy, go get, now she can have her show again. Like, that's the problem with y'all. Y'all always want to get people back in spotlight in the showbiz. Even if Wendy is well, I don't think that type of level of fame and attention was good for her. And the same with Britney, right? I don't need Britney to make another studio album. I will always be okay with where Britney is at in her life. Like, Britney has worked her entire life, her entire childhood to make music and be a celebrity and all that stuff. If this girl wants to just dance on Instagram and just be cute, let her live her best life. I will reminisce the memories of her previous hits. She has enough hits that I don't mind playing it. I have a whole Britney like playlist that I have that I jam out to. I have various ones. Like I have ones of like her very like sexy music that's very like, misty. I have her bubblegum pop songs. Like I'm original Britney stan, okay? Britney Army, that was my world. I love her. I think she's fine. Like let her just be to herself and just dance in her mansion and just be fun. And as long as she sends us proof of living posts on her social, that's enough for me. I just think people just need to stop making everyone just go back on the stage. Like some people, that's just not what they want to do, and that's okay. And I think with Wendy, if she wants to write a tell-all book, give us another documentary that is under her own control and her own vision, have at it, sis. Like, that's it. Like, we don't need to make everybody go back to the same place that probably caused some of the stress and the issues they've had. So I wish her well, for sure. Now, local politics. Yeah, there's a lot going on in Philly politics. Sherelle Parker, the Philly mayor, has announced her budget. Her budget is $6.7 million budget. People are saying it's a continuation of some first year promises. She wants to do some tax cuts that she thinks is going to spur investment and growth. One of the biggest interesting things is that she is proposing a $872 million police budget. We knew this was going to happen because crime is going down. So because crime is going down, she can justify giving the police department more and more and more money. I just feel like, I don't know. I'm never going to be crazy about an over-the-top police budget because we know other things are going to get cut. A lot of people are questioning how she's going to pay for it, which is a fair question, a fair critique. There are some interesting people that have spoken out with press releases about it. I've been following some of the critiques and some of the discussions on the internet. It's a lot of conversation and discourse about, spending, right? How she's going to pay for it, what's happening, is this going to work? There's a lot of fair critique. My whole mindset about it is I'm just going to keep my eyes. I mean, look, Councilmember Rue Landau, I'll give you a good example. She said in a statement that, there's a significant investment in housing, increased funding for initiatives like Vision Zero, a focus on investments in technology and government to make us more efficient for the public, and a continued commitment to clean and green. But it also raises a question, namely, how is the city going to balance proposed revenue cuts at this time as we face down pending federal funding cuts that will lead to a loss of services? That's a good question. Landau has a really great question. She says, I look forward to engaging the budget process. But there's a lot going on with Trump, right? There's a lot going on with Trump. There's a lot going on with these cuts. How are you going to create a budget that kind of don't address and acknowledge some of these problems? It's ambitious. I mean, is there a backdoor deal that we don't know about? Like, I'm just trying to figure out, how does she plan to just act like we don't see what's coming down the pipeline? Like, somebody's going to suffer. Somebody's going to get hit. We'll see. There's also been a lot of talk also on the other side with the DA, Krasner. There has been some major fines in his office and involving him that, it's not looking good. I just think there's a lot of interesting conversations that's being had, just in general about some of the stuff that's being said, and I do think that that there's a lot of issues that some people might want to bring up and talk about. I think this is Krasner's to lose. I think what I mean by I think this is Krasner's to lose. I think that Krasner is going to be a front runner. It's hard to beat a I'm not saying anything can't happen. Stranger things have happened, but I just think it's going to be a lot harder to be an incumbent that's been there. But what's been reported in the press is that DA Krasner office unfairly accused two former prosecutors of misconduct as it sought to exonerate a man of murder in 2018. This was earlier. As a result of this, a Judge Anne Marie Coyle, imposed a $120,000 fine. Basically said that, accused, basically said that Krasner had a no good faith basis and that that he had illegally withheld evidence to secure a wrongful conviction and that this was maliciously intended. It was intense, What was said was, quote, when that is your purpose, to detect fault instead of evaluating fairness, it lends to an inherent bias and perception, is what she said. Krasner has defended himself in the public. He says he's going to appeal, and he thinks that he will have success in the appeal. We're on DA watch up until the May 20th primary, but interesting. Now let's get on to Ask Ernest. Let's get into the topic that everyone wants to know about. You all been asking me about this weekend. You want to talk about brand flakes. You want to talk about the conversation, the back and forth. What's happening here? What's going on? What led this to happen? What's the drama? Yada, yada, yada. All right. So let me just lay down some foundation. I am myself, and I am not the one. I am not the two, nor the three. And we all know this. I've had, which is not unfamiliar, I had an issue with brand earlier this year that I spoke out publicly about. And this was the beginning. And to be clear, like, I am not, he's 28, I'm 33, I'm a grown ass man. He's an adult. Sometimes he acts very childish and mature, but we're not, our audiences are not the same. We're not the same. That, they're not like us. We're not like them. It is what it is. But I had an issue with a situation that during the TikTok, fallout, where everybody was like scared that TikTok was going to get shut down December 3rd, he had put on a fake Make America Great Again hat, not a physical on his head. He got it like a photoshopped Make America Great Again hat and was making this fake like plea to Trump. Like, I guess he was acting like, oh, Trump, don't take TikTok away or something, like, and making this joke about it. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's not giving what you think is giving, and it's problematic. And just how white people in these weird times will do weird shit, that really tells us, like, you're a gay white man that is mocking the idea of wearing with a mega hat on, like a Photoshop, making a joke about begging to the president to not kill TikTok. Yeah, that ain't doing what it is. I mean, you could have expressed that without being a white man with a mega hat on. Like, that's just not doing what you think it's going to do. So I just called out how it was getting really weird on the internet, how white folks was reacting and then white influencers were reacting to it. And it's just some weird stuff. And that was something that came across. And I was like, that's weird. His response to me was very condescending. And I never showed the messages in public. I never was not going to address it. Like, I just was like, I'm moving on, right? But he got in my DMs. It was very, the way he was talking to me, he was using AVE, AAVE. For those who don't know, that's African American Vernacular English, which is basically the way that I talk on the podcast. It's a combination of colloquial Black queer slang, Black slang mixed in with American English, yada yada yada. It's a type of way people talk, and so I'm Black. I talk in AVE. It's a thing, And, it was what Ariana Grande was doing. So when people say talk black, it's not necessarily, that's the light way of saying it, but it is a word, like linguistic scholars. And a lot of people don't know this shit because we're learning here. Linguistic scholars say they use AAVE, the African American vernacular English, as a way to describe this phenomenon, because there is, like, in linguistic studies, there is certain cultures that talk a certain way, use certain phrases, and Black culture, there is a universal type of trend of language and vernacular ways that we talk, and it changes various regions, but it is a part of our linguistic heritage. Same thing with Latino people. Like, there are different Latino cultures that will say certain things a certain way. If you live in the South, there are certain ways that Southern vernacular speech, how they will talk about it amongst culture, and if you mix it with different racial identities, different types of areas, and it will change, and inflection and things will change. But there is almost like a universal African American vernacular speaking that has been researched and studied, and I encourage you all to study it, right? And there are white people that will try to mimic that type of vernacular and pick up and say it, and they sound weird saying it and talking it, but they try to do it to sound hip. So Ariana Grande is not Latino, she's Italian. But when Ariana Grande was in the era of Thank You Next era, when she made that album, a lot of people picked her up on blackfishing. That was when she was putting on the heavy foundation to make her skin look darker and playing up in racial ambiguity, and that was a thing. And she would adopt a certain type of talking and way that she would speak, because she was hanging out with Victoria Monet, who's dope. And she picked up a whole accent, a black accent is what they described it, right? That black accent, the technical word to call it was African American Vernacular English, AVE. And that's a thing. So when you hear a person say, "Why are you talking like that?" to a white person, they are picking up a different accent and they're trying to cosplay into it. And there's variations of it, right? There's a Black queer speak. There is a Southern Black cultural talk. There, like, if you go to New Orleans people that are Black will say certain things that they won't say here in the North. But this is a real thing. There is a whole science and culture and research behind this. Like, this is not just this is a trend. It's trendy. No, it's not fucking trendy. It is actual science to it. And when you have people who are not educated enough to do the research and they choose to get in conversations with people who are intellectual enough to have it, they fall short. And so Brand was giving me this Avi type of talking. He was giving us AVE. He was in the DMs saying certain things to me, talking to me in this really weird way. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is not it, right? But he was trying to defend himself, and I was just like, it's still tone deaf. And tried to act like, he started telling me about the Black people that he's friends with and how he supported Kamala Harris. And like, oh, here you are giving me the I supported a Black person thing. So that is what you're trying to say is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, listen, again, I always tell people whole nuance. White people lack nuance sometimes. I think they struggle with nuance. I think they think one thing speaks to another and two things can't be true. Math and white people, like social math and white people struggle. And like, okay, and to the white listeners that are new, when I say white people, I don't mean all white people. So let's just stop that. Let's just stop that there, okay? A hit dog will holler. If it does not apply, let it fucking fly. Like I said, culturally and socially, white people lack nuance. Because if they actually held nuance, they can allow Black people to exist and coexist in America without trying to treat us like we're all thugs and criminals and bad people. Mass incarceration, the stats show that. Let's just be real. Okay, so this is the lack of nuance, is that I always tell white people, even white friends of mine, you can like Beyonce and love her and like her music and still be racist. You can like Black culture and still hate Black people. You can still date a Black man or a Black woman and still be fucking racist. Racism is not a zero-sum game. It's not I have a Black friend, so how can I be racist? No, you can have a Black accessory. You can have a Black token. You can enjoy Black music all day and still do things that will actively hurt Black people. It's just that. It's just true. We look at the NFL. I thought we already had this conversation, so I'm not going to be your educator. There's plenty of books and research in Google. Like we're not going to even act like you don't know this already. So we're going to skip the history lesson. I say all this to say that this is what nuance looks like. This is the nuance I'm talking about two things can be true. And bran flakes is an example of that. And this is how this new story begins. So remember how I was telling you all like a couple of weeks ago that the chubby chick story, that there was some weird stuff happening with the way that story was taken off. And I had my suspicions and I was right. I said, there's too many people getting involved in this situation. And I feel like when there's ever a situation where a Black person needs support or help, there is always going to be a white savior that is going to try to immerse themselves in a weird situation. That anytime Black people need help, some white people will be in a position where they say, you know what? I want to use this opportunity to leverage myself and level up in a way that benefits me. And they say they don't mean to do that, but then they do, and it gets a little weird, and then it gets a little fucked up, and then it gets really problematic. And a lot of people will love to say, Ernest, shut up, go away, stop talking about racism. I mean, well, guys, I'm Black, and racism impacts my life, and it's a disease in this world, and it impacts the way that I live. And so, you know how there's people that will always be environmentalists? That's how I look at myself addressing racism. Like, pollution is in the air, and as long as it impacts my breathing in a way that I live, literally, I am going to always talk about it, because until this disease and this issue called racism is eradicated, it's going to continue to fuck with my life and fuck with the people I love. So I'm not going to not speak about it. It is the issue that it's not a social justice cause for me. It is literally impacting my life. Racism impacts every aspect of my life. And if you don't understand that, I don't know what to fucking tell you. Like, sexism impacts every woman's life. Like, women are impacted by sexism. They are. And so asking a woman, you Jewish people, anti-Semitism impacts Jewish people's life. I will never tell a Jewish person to stop talking about anti-Semitism. So why do you expect a Black person to stop talking about racism? Oh. Like, I noticed that no one ever tells Jewish people, shut up about talking about anti-Semitism. Like, everything's not anti-Semitism. Yeah. Actually, that's bullshit, right? Like, Islamophobia impacts Muslim people, especially in this country. Do we tell women, like, in general, to stop talking about sexism? We always tell gay people, everything's not about homophobia. Shut the fuck up. Like, yes, gay people are impacted by homophobia. Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, telling me to shut up about racism is like telling me not to talk about pollution. Like, it impacts my life. I'm not going to stop talking about it. And if you don't like to hear me talk about it, then that just proves you're a racist. Telling Black people not to talk about racism is literally the antithesis of racism. Because why can we not? Because it makes you uncomfortable. Why does racism make you uncomfortable if you're not a racist? Okay, I just want to put that there, because everything's not about race, says white person to Black person. Yeah, everything's not about race for you. You don't want to talk about racism. Why? Because it makes you uncomfortable, it makes you feel guilty. Sit in that discomfort. Evaluate it. Think about it. I don't know. The racism jumps out, y'all. It jumps out in ways that people continue to ignore. The chubby chick situation, I sensed that it was going to go there. Every time there's a major issue that impacts the Black community that goes viral, there's always going to be certain types of people involved. There's going to be people that's not going to do anything. There's going to be the Black people that's going to speak up, offer resources, amplify, try to support. There's going to be white people that are going to shut up and just not censor themselves and do the right thing, support how they can. We know who those people are. Thank you, right? They're going to say, look, I see this thing. How can I support? Look, I'm going to write a blank check. I'm going to support this in my own way. I don't need no attention. Don't make it about me, yada, yada, yada. There are people like that. There are white people that are like that, right? And they just know, right? Because if we're going to keep using this word ally, which is cringier every day, but if we want to say ally or accomplice, allies don't run around saying they're allies. Like, they just don't. They don't go around saying that. Like, I don't run around being like, I'm an ally for women. I just fucking support women. And I support black women. I support women in general. Like, I do think I'm a feminist. I don't run around every day saying I'm an ally to women, but I do stand up and speak out. Like, there have been women who've been in abusive situations that I've publicly have defended and spoke up for. People who have been victims, women who've been victims of sexual harassment, abuse, and things that I just have said, like, okay, let me call that guy out. Let me be that person. And I don't need a badge of honor or any of that shit, right? But like, you just do it because it's the right fucking thing to do. And so I don't need the word, you just don't need that level of credit when you do it consistently. And people just know you for it, you just fucking do it. That's just where I'm at with it. But, nonetheless. But then you have white people who become the story. It becomes about them and less about the issue. And it gets to the point where, okay, you do that so much, you become a Christopher Columbus. You become the person that takes up space. You become the person that then erases people in the process. And this goes on, and a lot of times people don't say anything. So, the Philadelphia Inquirer, there was a black journalist who I know of. His name is Earl Hopkins. He's young. He's not from Philly. He's been here for a little bit, but he covers arts and culture for the Inquirer. So we're going to talk about the nuances of all of this. He wrote this profile on Brand, calling him the face of gay chaos, and talking about how he was help saving black-owned businesses in the city. The headline is a lot. The sub-headline is a lot. The narrative is already problematic off its own premise. So Brand likes to use the term gay chaos. Gay chaos is like this term he uses to talk about being fearless and unapologetically yourself. All good things, fine. He claims that he's the face of that in the city because he's living his unapologetic self and being gay and yada, yada, yada. I mean, this guy's entire account is largely about him being drunk, going to parties, and being a hot mess. And that is what gay chaos looks like to him. I thought gay chaos was what, I don't know, Marsha and Sylvia Rivera and, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Harvey Milk, gay chaos. I don't know. Barrett Rustin. I don't know. Teach their own. I mean, somebody who is doing this podcast right now has been gay chaos, creating good gay trouble for over a decade. But teach their own. People can define things the way they want to define them. Fine. But interesting enough, the story continues and talks about how he uses fearlessness to stumble across a black-owned business named Chubby Chicks, and he goes there and he makes a video asking people to support Chubby Chicks. The video goes viral. The owner of Chubby Chicks says, this couldn't have happened without him. I'm so grateful for his support, blah, 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 blah. And the story continues to go on. They named 2 black businesses that he shouts out. Because let's be clear, Brand Flakes or whatever, his whole entire brand was never about uplifting black-owned businesses. Like, he literally started doing this after the Chubby Chicks thing. Like, that was not his reputation. That was not his entire, MO. None of that was his whole thing, his shtick. It wasn't. His shtick was drunk at parties, turning up at clubs, going to the clubs, wearing cheetah pants, yada, yada, yada. It was very much a very niche audience. His audience was mostly white. Yes, he has the black girl he does that podcast with, and she's a sweet girl. I've met her before. She's nice. But like that one black girl and a bunch of white girls, they all go out to parties. I mean, like, just saying, right? And so that was literally, his reputation. That was their reputation he created. He was never the guy who was going to talk enough about social justice. Like, that's not his energy whatsoever. So when I saw this story, I said, you know what? People kept hitting me up, DMing me black influencers that I'm close friends with. Everybody in my circle was like, yo, that is so fucked up. I'm like, well, is anybody gonna say anything? Everybody was a little like, I don't know. He's got a lot of followers. People, he might attack me. I'm like, him? This little thing? Like, y'all scared of him? I don't know. I said, well, look, I don't like it. I'm going to say something because we all know that Dr. Afia was the reason why that jumped off. Dr. Afia is a, black influencer. She promotes a lot of black-owned restaurants, travel, all of that. She has a doctorate. She does DEI training. She's like a whole entrepreneur. She's the reason why all that popped off with the whole chubby chick situation. And I felt like the way it was going about, I felt like there could have been more to make that situation be less chaotic. But nonetheless, she used her platform. She got people talking about it. She's the one. Like, let's give credit where credit's due. Like, I don't know why it's so hard for people not to acknowledge folks and give credit. Like, I don't know. I come in the world of cite your sources. I teach my students this every week. Cite your sources. Like, do that. Like, name the work. If you see something, something, acknowledge it. For that story to completely erase her and act like brand was the reason why the chubby chicks things popped off, I was like, not on my watch. And as a journalist, as somebody who demands, as the president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, like, it is not like I am going to be a watchdog on fair coverage that impacts Black people in this city. That is my job. That is what I do. That is what this work is. Like, it was like, wait a minute, hold on now, wait a minute. Y'all thought we were finished? Like, you all are really about to give this white man this credit for this. And look, a lot of people were like, well, a Black man wrote it. Okay. That's like telling me, well, Candace Owens said Trump's a good president. I don't give a fuck. What does that mean? Okay. So, okay. Noam Chomsky, Bernie Sanders got thoughts about certain things. I know other Jewish people don't. So if I told you Noam Chomsky said it, are y'all going to go, yeah. No, don't weaponize Black people to defend bullshit, right? They can be wrong too. It's nuance, people. It can be, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. And that's what people do. They use Black people to try to push their narratives as if we won't say, yeah, he wrong too. Yes, Earl was wrong for how he wrote that story. And I'm going to tell you how he knew he was wrong. And we'll get to that in a minute. As far as the owner, the Chubby Chicks owner. I'm trying to be considerate with my words. I think sometimes, in my opinion, Black people, we will talk and we will give praise. And when we say things that acknowledge people, we don't mean to exclude other people, but we will, if we're asked about one particular person, we're going to say, oh, that's my fave. I love her to death. Best artist ever. Now, that's one conversation. Like, if I was on a red carpet and somebody said to me, Whitney Houston, what are your thoughts about her? She's an incredible singer. The best. Like, she's the voice. If you was to ask me about Beyonce 5 minutes later, I will say the same thing because I love Beyonce. It does not mean it's a slight to somebody else, right? And so I feel like the interview was so shifted on brand, and because Dr. Afia was never brought up, it put, I think, the Chubby Chicks owner to say, well, if I'm talking about brand, yeah, brand did a lot for me. Yeah, he's great. But I don't think that was a slight or a diss of excluding Dr. Afia. There's no way. Dr. Afia and the owner are cool. They've partnered with stuff. So I think that the way that quote was shaped, it was because it was focused on brand. If that conversation at Journalist would have done a better job, not that I'm trying to educate, brother, but like, take some notes, okay? If he would have said, okay, how do you feel about brand? I know Dr. Fia, whatever. There would have been a different response and answer to that question, in my opinion. And as a journalist, I know how questions can be asked. I know how framing can be. And so if you're asking someone about one particular person, then yeah, they're going to talk about that person in the way in which that person impacted it. But that doesn't mean that they're shaping it. The issue here is, in my opinion, is that brand, right, and the journalist, but brand, this story is about brand. Brand is being intellectually dishonest, I feel like, in that story. Like, how, you know how this story is being framed. You know how you're talking about it. And let's be clear, these stories don't fall from the sky. People have publicists, PR teams. I know what it's giving. I got my theories about how this story came together, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I have my own thoughts about this. Because I know what a fluff piece looks like when I see one. And I know how rooms and clout chasing gets. We'll get to that in a minute. But I said to myself, if I'm Brand, how do I let this guy interview me and give me this credit without being like, hey, whoa. Let me name some other people. Let me shout out some other folks that's been doing this. Let me name some other people. I don't want you to make it seem like I'm out here saving black. There's a little too much. I just did a couple of restaurants. Like, let me slow down. I just did 2. I just started doing this. I would not have felt comfortable. A person with humility would have never felt okay as a white person that claims they're an ally. That's why I say white people, stop calling y'all, like, do not designate. Anyway, if I was a white person, I would have felt uncomfortable allowing somebody to say all of this and write me in this way, knowing that there is another person who had a bigger role in this and not getting coverage. Like, Dr. Fia did not get, like, where is Dr. Fia's story? Where's her profile? She's been doing that type of work forever. Where's her profile? Where's her story? Where's her credit? Where's her acknowledgement? I just thought that was just weird. And so it speaks to an issue that we see happen, not just in black influencer spaces, but if we're talking about, we see it happen in black journalism. The Inquirer always erased black people from stories. Like, I've broken several big stories. They have not acknowledged that, this was first reported by Ernest Owens, blah, blah, blah. They don't acknowledge the work. They do this all the time. This issue is a combination of various issues, right? But how people respond shows people what people's true real actions are. They show people's true heart, theories, all that kind of shit. We see people's true shit. We see it. And I think we're at a phase right now where it's getting tired. People are sick of it. So I spoke on it. I named it. I called it out. I said, nah, we're not going to do this. And so I did not tag him. And I purposely did not tag him because I know how influencers and how certain people do. They do the whole, oh, they tagged me. Oh, I got a lot of hate. I'm a victim. I'm getting death threats. They love to do the I'm getting death threats narrative, the Karen. But I said, I'm going to just discuss this. People are going to know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to sick a person. Because when you tag a person, it's like a dog whistle. Or it sends a signal where people go on their account and attack. I said, I'm not going to do that. If people follow my page and see it, this man has over 282,000 followers on Instagram. His followers are not my fault. If he sees it and catch it, it can be a conversation, but I'm not going to target him in this type of way because I know how the victimhood goes, right? If people knew, they knew, but I wasn't going to be there. If they go out their way to find, they go. He sees me talking, and again, did not name him verbatim. But he goes, and then what he do is that he screenshots one of my posts about saying what if a white influencer, blah, blah, blah. He screenshots that. He tags me on his Instagram account with 282,000 followers, right? I got 17,000 real ones, no bots, baby. But he got 282 on his Instagram. He tags me, and then he goes, Ernest Owens is a strange guy. All of his followers begin to go on my page, talk crazy shit. I said, okay, now that the man has identified himself, let me go ahead and let's go. So then I showed the story. I just straight up showed the story with his face. Still did not tag him, still not name him. He blocked me. But let me back up real quick. He DM'd me first, again, before he blocked me, because that's what cowards do. Because when you block a person, you can't tag them. So that's what happens when you get in a situation. When a person blocks you, you can't tag them or anything. So you can't see their page, you can't see the shit that they're posting. It's very passive aggressive. So in the midst of him doing the tag, making the response, which was again giving weird, right? He does this thing where he DMs me and he says, You are so filled with hate and disdain, it's a shame. I said to him, gaslighting doesn't address the real elephant in the room. You literally erased the work of the work that Dr. Fia did in that interview, and people in your comments been noticing that. He said, Dr. Fia legit thanked me from the bottom of her heart because she realizes none of this is about me, her, or you. Good luck with everything. You are blinded by hate and disdain, and you need to stop using the word gaslight because you don't know what it means. And he did a laughing emoji. And I simply responded, sure, Brand, to summarize my remarks as hate and disdain is so easy for you to do. I get it. I kept it cute because I know how screenshots work. And I also know how I don't got to get it. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to get ugly and get down low with somebody that does not have the range. You're using the same phrase, hate and disdain. You don't have the intellectual capacity or the range to have a real honest conversation with me about white privilege, about how you took up space from a black woman, how you erased the black woman from a narrative that she led and prompted to support, how you're censoring yourself as a white person, how you're condescending a black person who does this type of work. Like, none of this is okay. But I said, oh, you tagged me? Oh, so you want this. You want to go back. Okay, well, let me show everybody who you really are. Y'all, I refrained. I wasn't going to go in. But if you're going to call me strange, we could get strange. We could get real strange. And it could get uglier than Kim Barbie in here. And it did. It did. Because I said, well, it's up. And then that's when I said, well, since all of these followers are now on my page, let me tell everybody how this guy has been fucking this shit up since day one. And let me let y'all know how problematic this really is. And if this is your ally, let me show y'all what this is not. And so, interesting enough, thousands of people were in my damn Instagram stories. And in the midst of me talking about this issue at length, many people came in my DMs and expressed the same similar concerns and issues and thoughts. And one of the things I did was, in my story, my IG story, which you can go back and look, it is called PHL Colonizing. Funny title. But I made it a highlight because I figure sometimes I do highlights in my IG stories. I'm like, okay, I'm going to let that rock. It was for a day only. Sometimes you just want to keep a archive. And so you can forever see that story. It's in my Instagram highlights. For those who are nosy, say, let me catch up on what I missed. It is there for you to see for as long as I have an Instagram page or whatever. Because I want people to understand why that individual, how that went left. And never rewrite the history. Because revisionist history is real. Those receipts are there. They are forever there. I don't give a fuck what anybody say. Go back and let's run it back so you can see how that situation played out in real time. You can see how that went down. I don't delete nothing. Go see the whole story. Because I felt like it's important. Because things are going to shift and change. And I think people need to remember how certain things started and where they finished. And so during that entire time, he's hitting up my black friends, black influencers that I'm cool with, being like, your friend's attacking me and coming for me. Dude, you clap back. This is the same shit Justin Timberlake did. This is the same shit that they all do. They do the thing where they want to get snappy with a black person. They fuck around, they find out, and they want to run and cry under some black person to try to save them and help them. Help, this black guy's attacking me. No. You tagged me first. You went in and brought your people to tick me. And here's the thing, I'm not a crime victim. I know what I do. I know what it's giving. The moment I talked and went up, his followers started talking shit in my DMs, talking crazy, being all problematic and racist. I can screenshot every little thing they said. I want to see if my quote-unquote followers that I have did the same thing to him. Child, they didn't. Because at this point, everybody knows, my circle know how we get down. We don't do all of that. But at the end of the day, the way that you showed your ass and you acted, you brought all that to yourself. I'm not ever going to play the game. I'm never going to play victim. I'm never going to cry and go, boo-hoo-hoo, these people said these things to me. I'm so hurt. I'm depressed. No, I'm not doing that. Because at the end of the day, You chose to pop off. You want to talk your shit, and I called it out. It's fair game. You got 1 million followers on TikTok. You think you big shit. Cool. Well, then at the same time, you do what you do. Listen, people talk shit about me every fucking day. People are obsessed with talking shit about me. Even in situations I have nothing to do about. It's life. If you're a public figure, you're in the public eye, we all get it. So for those in the DMs like, no one knows who you are, baby, Google me. Google me. Cause it's fun. People think followers determine clout. What's funny to me is that I always tell people it's not the how many, it's the who. I got 17,000 followers. Senators, elected officials, media, national media outlets and local media outlets, local and national journalists, brands, agencies, PR firms, you name it. Hollywood studio companies and execs follow my Instagram page. So, yeah, 17,000 top-notch folks versus whatever. I will say this. Whenever I talk on my Instagram stories, anybody will tell you, if it gets in that IG reel, if it gets on my page, trust and believe, shit is about to change. But somebody's got to fuck around and find out. It's always a white man, interesting enough, often. Like, it's just always a white man, no matter if they're gay, straight, whatever. They always are the ones that try it because it's the audacity. It's the audacity. Like, I'm the one. oh, you think it's cute. You think it's cute. He thought it was cute. He fucked around. He found out. Then he started begging in the text messages of my friends. He hit up my black friends, begging them to try to shush me the fuck up. They know better. They knew better. They was like, child, you fuck around. Honestly, they was like, hit me up like, brain hitting me up. I don't know what to tell them. Listen, they knew. Because where was the lie? In the words of Cat Williams, should have been talking shit. But there was an important conversation that needed to be had. Outside of the back and forth, the Tom and Jerry of it all, there was an important conversation. And so I told people, listen, Black influencers in this city, there's a lot of them that's been promoting black-owned businesses. Josh Eats Philly, Geo's Table, Cast in the City, Fueled on Philly. Toy Time. So many. Kobe. All of these different people have been doing this work for a while. And the PR firms, some of them, used to not invite them to events, would say, oh, this is too niche. This is not a good fit. They never invited some of those people to those spaces. And I've called that out in certain when I get word of it. I've called it out. Sometimes I win those battles, sometimes I lose those battles. But like, I'm also not a influencer agent or whatever, right? But I've seen these journeys. I have too many friends in this space that I've heard their stories. I've heard what happens to them. I hear this shit. And I was like, we're really about to sit up here and play into white saviorism. Like, you literally said save. Wow. You're really going to put this white guy as a center of attention. So let me tell you what I think happened here, in my opinion. Earl, I think, wants traffic. He's a journalist. He writes stories. I think having an influencer like quote-unquote Brand Flakes was going to bring traffic to the story. He needs to get views. I get it. Journalists, they do it. You want to write a big story, or you want to write a story about somebody that's very viral. You know they're going to show it on their Instagram. And I've seen a lot of media outlets that, even some that I work with, try to placate the influencers to try to get traffic on the site and get some hits and get some views. Well, he probably got a lot of hits off of that story, but probably not in the ways he thought it was going to be. But this social climbing and clout chasing that some reporters they do with certain stories. Now, I'm not saying that, like, if you do a breaking news story, damn it, get traffic. But I've noticed that there's been this trend lately that when there is stories on influencers, people pick people with big followers. They pick certain people, but that typically lends itself to white people. And with the Inquirer, we know the Inquirer has a history of racism. Like, that's just a fact. I can see it being a situation where maybe covering Dr. Phil was not going to get him the kind of traffic that he thought it was going to be for an article. Versus if I do brand, oh, he's going to get a lot. And look, Brand has PR people. He has a rep. He's got agents. He's got all that stuff. So do I. And I know that they probably was like, let's pitch this angle to this black reporter who covers culture. There was like, it would be boring to say Brand got 1 million followers. Who gives a fuck? That's not a story anymore. But let's also try to shape him as for good. And so, again, I've been in the industry. I know how these marketing schemes go. I just want to say, just thinking out loud, Brand had been trying to chase 1 million followers for a period of time. There was no motion. He was going to eventually get there, but there was no motion getting him close to that 1 million followers. The moment he jumped on this chubby chick situation, he got a black audience to follow him in ways that they had not been following him before. Like a big wave of black women and people began to chase after him. He found a niche to get him to that 1 million follower mark, that 1 million follower mark that he'd been chasing for. White people do this all the time. They look at Katy Perry's career. Whenever they need that jolt, that thing that's going to get them to something, to get them further, to get their career popping. Miley Cyrus did it. Let's not forget. They will find a way to tap into black culture, tap into black spaces as a way to be able to boast them up. The issue with Brand is that Brand is going through a rebrand. That podcast he's on, he's not going to be on it too long. I hear word on the street that there's going to be some LA people. He's trying to go to Hollywood. He's trying to do some different stuff. He's got different people working with him. He's got to reshape his brand, because the brand of I am the 28-something gay guy who goes to clubs and party and drink, he's got all these followers off of that, but he's about to get to 30. And when you get to a certain age, shit that you used to do, you can't do anymore. And so I think there's a reshifting of his brand. And that happened with the whole cheetah print thing, with the pants, discrimination at the bar, all that stuff have to do. And there's a thing where I think he's trying to re-image himself. And so part of the rebrand of him was like, let me look more philanthropic. Let me look more caring. Let me look more like diverse. Because I think the problem is that Brand was just like an entitled white boy. Like it looks like privileged white boy, white parties, white crowds. You're not going to get enough. And so his hook became, I think he saw that situation. Let's be clear, he was not the first white guy that went in there. Corey Versa went there. Corey Versa been around supporting black-owned business for various reasons. Some of them were his clients. Corey Versa was doing that shit too, but been doing it. He had black clients. All of that. He was doing that in his own right, but Corey Versa's in his 50s. Brand's younger. Brand's got more followers. Brand's an actual influencer. And so I think that what happened was, I think Brand saw an opportunity. See, there's never a win. There's never a, I'm just going to do this just to just do this. Come on. Like, influencers are opportunistic. That's just what they are. I mean, there's no shade there. They're always looking for opportunity to leverage. The sweet spot is, I can do this. It's already viral. And I can make a trend. So he did it with Chubby Chicks. He benefited off of it. His followers went all the way up. And then he did it for another black-owned business the next week. Followers went up. So then the narrative becomes, and he starts saying this and stuff like, I'm going to save a black-owned business. And it was like, save? The fuck? But see, this is the crazy part. These black-owned businesses, they just want any type of a support. So they really don't want to bite the hand that they think proverbially feeds them. So they're never going to be like, oh, I support him, but don't, because money is money. And that's the ugliness of capitalism, right? Is that in situations where people might be treated like a pet or treated like, a prop for something, if they can benefit in some type of way, they're going to do whatever they feel like they got to do, because that's what desperation looks like. And so there is a interesting dynamic between struggling black and brown businesses and white influencers in the savior complex, because it's like, in some ways, it's sad that racism in society can put people in discrimination. Like, let's be real, black-owned business don't get support because of racism, right? There's a racist behind why they don't get supported in this city, right? But then what's crazy is that white people will capitalize off of the racial disparities to then leverage it to make themselves the heroes of a story that their society, their culture is doing. Brand literally benefits off of white privilege. He was the white dude that got to go into all of these bars and all of these places that black folks was getting discriminated at. Okay, let's not play. Like the bars that nightclubs that he was going to, black folks was getting turned at the door. Okay, but he benefits off of that, and he never gave a fuck. Never say anything about that shit. Black influencers was never getting invited to some of the spots he was getting to because they were black. But he benefited off of that, and I think the problem is that some people will sit up and like make issues a problem because they want to censor themselves in such a way that takes up space and takes up time. And it makes things so bad because people don't ever take the time to realize, you know what, maybe I could have did this a different way. Maybe I could have been more considerate. Maybe I could have been more thoughtful. Maybe I could have, been more respectful. But instead of doing that, they basically censor themselves. And so I don't fault black-owned businesses. I think it's a sad situation because it's like you need the support, you want the foot traffic, and then a lot of times racial bias and disparity chips into that where people will just take whatever support they can get. But there's also white people that will only do it unless they're getting all this attention. So it's very transactional. And I think what Brand did proved that, because it's almost like the moment you do this for two black-owned businesses, within like literally 2 weeks, you're automatically getting a profile feature story. At the same time, you hit 1 million followers, and you don't name any of the black influencers, other folks that's been doing that work. You don't shout them out. You don't acknowledge them. You censor yourself. And once again, we see the disparity. This man talked about how he made nearly $800,000 last year from influencing. And I'm sitting to myself like, there's no black influencers in Philadelphia that's making anywhere near that kind of money and do the same work. And I'm not to say he doesn't deserve his money, but it's almost like we see these disparities. They can do just the same amount of work, the same type of thing, but we know how racism works. And if you are a white person in that space and you can't even acknowledge that there's white privilege and there's disparity, and you don't use your platform to acknowledge that reality, it's kind of fucked up. But yet you're taking credit as being this ally and this person. It's like, is that really true? And I think that's what's the problem. And this is what I tell people. No one learned any lessons 5 years ago during the racial uprisings. All those conversations around white privilege and all that kind of stuff. People are still out here replicating the same formula that continues to allow these issues on a systemic level to persist. And the problem is when black people call this shit out, we get vilified. We get tone policed. We get told, oh, you should have said it this way. You should have said, listen, if I would have said it any other way, no one would have given a fuck. I've done this too long. I know how this works. I literally have to call these issues out in a very public way in order to get people to listen. I already did a private calling in with Brand when he did the mega hat last month. I literally sat up and was like, yo, this is not okay. You need to read the room. And that dude literally sat up there and told me all kind of shit. Like he was talking to me crazy. So it's funny that everyone acts like as a black person, I don't do my due diligence. There was a call in before there was a call out. People always think that black folks just simply just go out. And if we did, so the fuck what? But to be clear, there was always a call in before a call out. Just because you all don't know that story, don't assume I didn't do it. And I think that's the problem, is that people are always quick to assume black people don't do their due diligence, that we don't, consider all the optics. As a black person in this country, I cannot walk around freely and do what the fuck I want without having to consider repercussions. Even when I decided to talk about this issue in this way, I knew that, oh yeah, my DMs are going to be fucking in shambles by a bunch of crazy, dumb people that's going to talk to me stupid. I'm just going to delete and ignore. So nasty and so rude. Like, I don't have to give a fuck. But I've done this before. And so the reality is it's like, you choose. And I'm in a position where I am blessed and fortunate to be gainfully employed, have various streams of revenue. I'm married. I have a husband that's gainfully employed. I'm in a very good position in my life where I don't feel threatened or fear to speak out because I am fortunate enough that I can afford to talk my shit. I understand that some people don't. But I will ask people that are not in those positions not to silence people that use their platforms to speak up. Just because you can't do it because you're in fear does not mean that you try to intimidate other people to do so. And I'm talking other black and brown people. Because sometimes I think what happens is that folks that are not, they hold resentment that they don't have that freedom. And I get it. But don't discourage Black folks who are in a space that feel like they need to call out racism, that they want to talk about bias and disparity, and to also tackle folks that do wrong things. Because at the end of the day, an injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. And I think too often we let white people like Brand talk to people a certain type of way, erase folks, and then don't expect change. So let's talk about change that has happened. There are conversations that I hear. I hear Dr. Fia and Brand are going to have a conversation. Clearly, her tone and tenor is going to be different from mine. She doesn't have to be the angry Black woman. She's going to be a lot more graceful in all the things, right? Because had she done what I did, they would have called her the angry Black woman. I'll be the angry Black man. I don't give a fuck. I'll say what needs to be said. I don't care. But she'll get an opportunity to have a conversation that she chooses to have with him. Brandon want to talk to me. Brandon's already talked to me. I already know what his energy is, because there is a certain attitude that white gay men, some, have towards other Black gay men. And that's another story for another day. But there's always this underlining sense of superiority where you feel like you can talk down. And they don't ever say, listen, you don't got to say the N-word with the hard R in order to convey a level of dismissal and disrespect. Like I listen, you can disagree with me, whatever you can, but the way that he was talking to me out of the pocket, there's something behind that. Okay? I'll just leave it there. I could pull out all the receipts. I've heard too many stories. And let me just say this. The roosters, the chickens will come to roost. They'll come to roost. Other people will tell their own experiences and stories. I'm not going to tell everybody's tea. But all I got to say is, I knew it. Other people going to talk. That ain't my tea to spill. But my inkling about him got confirmed this weekend. I already sensed it, but it got confirmed. And I think if people pay attention to the whole aesthetic, Black sense and, Black queer vernacular, and it's a minstrel show. It's cosplay. Is that how he really talks? Or is it an act? Think about it. I'll leave it there. But that's what they do. They like Black culture, but then erase Black people. But they're an ally. And they only go around Black people when it benefits them, or they have to have some diversity. I'll get a whole group of white girls, and I'll call them my girlies. I'll find one cute Black girl, put her in there. And now you can't say I'm racist because I have a Black girl in my group. And listen, I'm not saying she's being tokenized. But I will just say that I wonder how she feels in those circles. I'm just curious. I just wonder what those experiences feel like for her. Do she actually share those experiences? Because there is racism happening over there. I'm not saying with the girls in the group. I'm just saying that when you're the only Black person in certain spaces, how people might talk to you or treat you compared to other people. I wonder. I can't talk for her, but I just wonder. And I'm talking from experience because I know what that feels like. I've been in those situations when I was much younger. And you're like, I'm in the room. But then you're also feeling like, there's some people in this room that ain't shit, but I got to do what I got to do. I've been there. It happens. I'll just leave it at that. So, change. What has happened is I tag several Black influencers I tell people to follow. A lot of you all followed them, learned their pages. One of my good friends, Dr. Gio, one of my late brothers, has gotten hundreds of new followers. To the point that he's like, look, I haven't been making that much content like I used to, and now I got to get my ass out there and start doing it, right? It's a lot of people that have gotten followers based off of people's content. And it has opened a lot of doors and conversations for people to support. And it's been really good to see people begin to follow these people, learn about their work, and really support them in that space. And they've gotten boosts and have gotten followers, and it's a beautiful thing. And also, I think about that story that I was telling you about. So the Philadelphia Inquirer made a major edit to that story. Initially, they just jumped right to Brand going to chubby chicks, but they actually corrected the story. They did not note that they made the correction, but screenshots exist. That's why we keep receipts. They changed the body of the paragraph for the story to then include Dr. Afia and her work and her viral video, hyperlinked it, and gave her proper attribution for her role in getting attention to it. And so what that and let me be clear, I did not speak to the editors of the Inquirer. I did not speak to anybody, but I know it killed them to have to make that correction. This is like the third. Listen, I don't know what legacy media is doing in Philadelphia, but you will make changes. You will fix the fucking record. And they did. So they edited the story to include Dr. Afia's contributions, her name, her work. They hyperlinked her video, and they cited her and acknowledged her for what she did. Because at the end of the day, they can hate me all day. And this is how it works in this industry. People be hating me. They don't like that I called them out. But guess what? When I'm right, I'm fucking right. And once again, they had to fix it. So I don't need credit. They don't got a name to that. I don't need all that shit. At the end of the day, the public record has been changed and addressed. That article has been updated to acknowledge her and her work. And so now anybody who reads it will not read this thinking that Brand Christopher Columbus, his efforts, because here's the thing, social media stories, social media reels, that shit will fade, that shit will go away. But articles, the published archives, like print media archives that will be with us long after, it has to be in the public record. It has to be in articles that will surpass us. When people want to go back and read Chubby Chicks or read about any of this stuff, they need to know that, because that's history. And so I tell people a lot of times, it's not even just about like, getting shout outs. It's about actual accuracy, because years will pass and people will talk about this and go and Google an article. And it's important to acknowledge the contribution that Black women did in that situation. And so the fact that they did edit their story and change their story acknowledged the point that everybody was trying to skip over. Everybody was trying to act like, Ernest, you wilding out, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I'm not going to respond to this bullshit. What do I always tell y'all? Wait, I'll wait. If I'm wrong, it won't matter. But what happened? But I was right. But there was a problem. And it was such a problem that the Inquirer had to literally edit their story to acknowledge this glaring error. Just saying. You think that would have happened if a couple of people in the comments said something? No. You think that would have happened if I never would have said anything? It wouldn't have. Because Brand wasn't going to correct it. None of these Black influencers would have spoke up because they would have been, afraid that, I'm going to get singled out. I might lose a contract. So you know what I did? I did it. And guess what? Now all these people, these Black influencers, some of them already hit me up. There are certain people reaching out to them to put them on guest lists, to invite them to certain events. They're now being considered. People have already told me that firms are now reaching out to them to work with them, to invite them to events, because I done put it on notice. I tell people, this is the Beyonce thing, where she did country music. They said, stay out of your lane, Beyonce. This ain't your lane. This ain't your lane. Da, 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 da. You don't do country. Da, 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 da. And she said, okay, not only am I not going to do this country, I'm going to do country genre. I'm going to also bring in other artists. You think Shabuzi would have had a #1 hit and he would have been as big as he was if Beyonce not put him on a Cowboy Carter album and really put him out in the mainstream and launched him in this public eye right before he dropped that single and dropped his album. Like, people do, this is how it works. This is how you reframe a narrative and shape it. I know my power. I know my influence. Like, I knew that calling this out, if I did not redirect and tell people, look at these other influencers, follow them, that now you're going to see them more. Now they're going to have, they got tons of followers, they're growing, people are hitting them up. You're going to hear more about them, and you probably wouldn't have not heard about them if you did not know. And I'm not playing the savior complex, because there's no such thing as Black saviors. Okay, let's be clear. There's no white supremacy in this shit. in that scenario. But what I'm saying is that that's what we do. That's what you do. You do it, and you don't need any accolade and praise. If people want to give me a thank you, I appreciate it. But you just do it. There's no net benefit from you doing it. Like, did I get paid? Did I write the story? No. But recognizing that I had an opportunity to raise this issue, to speak up for Black influencer friends that I have, to hopefully garner support for them for work that they never get credit for, then mission fucking accomplished. And that is why I do what I do. And this is the work. And so when people sit up and bitch and complain and all of this about, I want to do, okay, guess what? I'm not going to do it the way you tell me to do it. Okay, that's not what I'm going to do. But you can. That's my response now. Everybody's like, there's a better way you could have did it. No, I wasn't going to do it that way. But you can. You can do the better way. You'll do it. My results work. My approach works. Results. I've been doing this shit for over 10 years. People have been trying to shut me up for years. The results work. They fucking work. Like, tell me that they don't work. They work. We got a child pedophile out of a fucking ward. This man literally sexually assaulted an underage girl. If I would have not called that shit out, you think that man would have still not have left? We took a pedophile of the ward. Results. Like, I just need people to understand that this is uncomfortable work. Everybody's not built for it. Everybody's not in a position to do it. And also, to be real with you, everybody does not have the time, the patience, the resources, the education to do it. I get that. So here is a guy, myself, leveraging the resources, the connections, the education I have to fight these battles for people that I give a fuck about and communities that I care about. That's what we do. And rather than try to tell me, you should do this, you should do that, you know what? You go do it the right way that you think I'm doing the wrong way. And let's all win. If there's a better way to fucking do it, then best me. I'm all for good ideas. But don't try to tell me what the fuck to do. How about you actually do the thing? You do it. You do it. And what's funny is the people that often try to tell me what to do are not doing anything. They're not doing anything. They're not bringing anything to the conversation. All they're bringing to the conversation is notes and critiques. I've done this too long. I know this too well. There was a time when I was much younger when I used to really feel like I had to have the weight of my world. I am not the face of any community. I am not the voice of every community. I am just a voice in a community that is trying to amplify issues that I care about. I'm one of many. I am not the only one. I am not the face of gay chaos. But I'm definitely close to it, though. Now, I'm just saying, we can all participate and contribute. There are ways to do this. And if you feel like there's a better way of doing something, rather than tell everybody else the better way of doing something, how about you do it? Because the way that I'm doing it is accessible. Anybody can leverage your social media platforms. You can be 17,000 Instagram followers and take on a dude with 280 something thousand. And it can be a white dude with a massive following, and you can do it. It's the David and Goliath effect. And I'm talking from experience. 9 years ago, I came at Justin Timberlake. I didn't have a blue check mark on my Twitter account. I didn't have as many followers. I had 2,000 Twitter followers or something. And I made change. To be honest, I always tell people the truth will go viral. If you're speaking, if you're being courageous, if you're being intentional, if you're being informed, and you're being real, it will do the work. Truth will find itself to the table. People will always find a way to arrive at truth. No matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter what. If I was talking bullshit and I was just batshit crazy, I would have never gotten the level of response and energy I got it. If everybody was like, Ernest is crazy, or Ernest is strange, we don't like him, yada, 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 then nothing would have moved. Don't pay him no mind. He ain't talking about nothing. But it was something that hit. There was a truth that no one was going to say. And it made an effect that meant something. And it started a conversation in a way that was focused on the issues. And you know what? It benefited some people that deserved it. It reset the room, it reframed the narrative, and it took away power from somebody who had way too much power in that situation. Shifting powers and dynamics is what is at the core of being a change agent. In that situation, a white boy had way more power than what he had in a situation that involved black people. Me calling it out reshifted the narrative and took away some of that power and properly gave it back to a marginalized space that deserved the recognition. That is how you shift power. And I think the weird part about white people is they claim that they want change, they want this, they want that, they want equality, they want diversity. But the conversation I always find, and I'm going to wrap this up, this part is that in the midst of all of these complaints about diversity and this, the one thing that I find is hard with white people when you have that conversation is you know that it's a disproportionate amount of power. What are you doing to let go of some of your power and privilege to reset the room? And that's what they struggle with. They struggle with the reality that there's been a rigged system. That rigged system is called white supremacy. Rigged system means that you as a white person has not earned everything fair and square, that there has been privileges given to you based off of racism. If we are to eradicate racism and address white privilege, that means that you as a white person is going to lose some power and privilege that you did not deserve, and somebody else is going to get it. Are you okay with that? White people are really not okay with that. That is what they struggle with. They're okay with the, let's do diversity. Everyone can win. Everybody can win, but not everybody's going to win the same way. If we really are in a world where equality and equity exists, if we recognize that black and brown people are being completely fucked over in this system, there is no way for white people to continue to maintain all of the wealth, power, and resources and domination they have if that means that black and brown people are to get something. The pie doesn't grow, it gets redistributed. How do we redistribute this power to go to people? How do we redistribute wealth? They don't want to do that. The moment you start saying you're going to have to give up some things, oh, you know what they like to do? They like to shift it. Go after that person. Don't look at me. Go to him. But the problem is we're getting to a point where it's only so many finger pointing white people can do that they're going to have to put the finger on themselves and look at themselves and have to address that. They don't want to do that. The brands of the world is like, look, I want to make $800,000 a year. That is crazy. Doing influencer shit. I'm getting stuff because I am white. Some of that is not because I'm cool. Like some of it is. But me being white, putting on a black scent, and really walking around, I know that a black queer person that's doing this will not make the same amount of money as me. Brand, let's be fucking for real. Like, it's not just you, it's other people. If a black gay man did the exact same thing Brand did, we all know they would not make the same amount of money as Brand. I know that for a fact. I know a couple gay black influencers across the country that do the same exact shit that Brand do, and they do not make nowhere near the amount of money he does. We all know that, y'all. We know that for a fact. We know that. Brand, if he's a real quote-unquote ally, knows that he benefits from white privilege. That is just a fact. We know this, right? We also know that a black person in real time, this is white privilege. This is the drop mic moment. A white man like Brand, influencer, literally shouts out two black-owned restaurants, gets an instant profile by the Inquirer, citing him for saving black-owned businesses. I want to find the countless Inquirer articles that have literally given black people, black influencers credit for the same amount of work and leverage that they've done. I want to see it. Where's Dr. Fia's story that literally gives her that in the Inquirer? Where's that story? Where's the story that literally gives Dr. Fia that type of recognition and credit for doing that for black-owned businesses when she's done that for so in not the Tribune, not black-owned media, but a white publication? Find it. You cannot. I already did. You cannot find it. And so for that very reason, that tells me everything we need to know about distribution of power. In that moment, Brand, a white man who has all that privilege and power, he simply could have said, you know what, the attention's not all on me. Let me name Dr. Fia, who he claimed thanked him from the bottom of her heart. So you could have thanked her in saying, look, thanks for bringing this to my attention. Chubby Chicks have been open since January. Brand could have been went there. It was literally in fucking Center City. He didn't do that because he was probably somewhere in park, singing in the middle of park, trying to make sure everybody came up to him and saw him and take selfies with him. People be telling me all kind of Tina DMs. But anywho, I'm saying that to say that that is the shit that people do. Like, that is what I mean by distributing power. Brand benefits in a universe where he cannot not at all acknowledge anyone else that might be as talented as him or more talented than him, and will only center himself in those spaces. He leverages up, not unilaterally, not holistically. And that's white privilege. That's what white people do. But here's the irony. You're entering a space where you're trying to frame yourself as being for a community and being an advocate for Black people. Then that means you have to reshift your entire priority and focus. He has not done that. He has not done it in a way that benefits without benefiting him. And that is literally the antithesis of white fucking privilege. Is the ability to opt in and opt out when you want to care about a certain community or support. Which means we're not calling you an ally. We're not calling you an accomplice. You're none of that. You're, in many ways, arguably, this is vulture behavior. This is culture vulture behavior. Let me put on a black scent. Let me use all this stuff. He was in a video doing the whole, I'm not the one, the two, or the three. Where you get that from? I bet you he don't even say child. I bet you say Chile, because he probably don't even know that. They pick up all of our swag. And the sad thing about society is that society likes Black features and actions on white faces and bodies. They literally will, if a Black person did the same antics, it would be not professional, sloppy, not cool. No. If I acted the way Brand did on my social media, if I cut up like that, got drunk, blacked out, there will be nothing. I would not have any deals. I would be considered a hot ass ghetto mess. Like, I would not be able to succeed. There is a privilege that is given to white people and white men, regardless of sexual orientation, that is not given to other people. And if we cannot be honest about that simple fact, then what are we actually doing? Do we really want change? Do we really want to change anything? Do we want to actually address inequity? Like, everyone wants to do this without uncomfort. There is discomfort in redistributing power. You cannot take things away and move things and reset the room without people feeling some type of way. There's no way to do that friendly. There is no white folks that are going to be generous as a collective and say, yes, take away this power that I have not deserved, some of this wealth that I have not earned, some of this shit that I've stolen and copied from people that are not as known as me. They're never going to do it that way. If they do, I'll be surprised. Nothing is given. It has to be taken. I had to take power from that white man so that this Black woman could be able to have the proper credit. There had to be a checking in the room. Black and brown people, unfortunately, have to fight for equality. We have to fight for equity. We have to do it because they will not do. When they get a chance, they don't do it often. In that situation, Brand could have did that. He did not. His white privilege got the best of him. He rode that wave. He let that story be published without any critiques or edits. He could have called that and said, you know what? I don't think this is it. Do you know how many times, and I don't even talk about this, I will be clear, that I've been asked to be on certain panels, to be on certain shows, to talk about certain issues, and I had to go, that's not my lane. But I could refer somebody for you. Yeah, I don't think I'm the best person to talk about that topic about Black hair. I know a Black woman who is really great and is well trained to talk about Black hair issues. I cut my hair low. I don't have locks. I can't talk about that. I have literally in my profession done it my entire career. People know, people that know, but I don't got to name names and situations, but I'm just saying that there are ways that you can give credit to people. You can invite other people in the room. You can do that. I've done that my entire career. Sometimes I have fought for things that people just said to me, no, they can't do it. And I'm like, that's fucked up. And there are times where people say, you know what? I didn't even know that. Thank you for letting me know I can do that. But let me tell you something. I am past the days of being the only Black person in the room. If you catch me somewhere at an event, I mean, look, the Oxford debate, I did not know what I was walking into. If I could have had if I could have invited a Black person to be my debate partner, I would have. But sometimes you can't control certain things. But in most situations, I try not to be the only Black person in the room. I don't benefit from it. I don't like it. I think that's what creates the problems. That's how tokenization happens. No, not my forte. I'm trying to help other people understand that that's not a good thing either, because then this type of shit happens. But that's all I got on that. Moving along. So, movies. There's a lot of talk about Jonathan Majors. He is on his comeback season. There was a big story he did for the Hollywood Reporter. He's on a redemption. He's sharing a lot. He's being vulnerable. A lot of you all have been asking me, like, what you think about the Jonathan Major thing? I think, look, the man has went through hell and back. He's addressed his issues. At the end of the day, look, y'all are out here giving Mel Gibson a chance. Woody Allen still out here got a career. He has not done any of the things at the same level of any of the men I just named. I think Jonathan Majors has a right to try to fight for his career back. I find him cringy, not because of that situation that happened, but because of the fact that some of the stuff he has said in the past and the way he's acted a little bit with like the whole, Megan Good, Coretta Scott King thing, it's a little cringy. I think he's an oddball. He's an odd fellow. But, I mean, if he's really working towards the redemption arc, I felt that way about Will Smith. Y'all was ready to cancel Will Smith. I was like, I ain't canceling Will Smith for that shit, because at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? He made a mistake. He got canceled. The Academy suspended him for 10 years or whatever. Well, like, listen, black people get the most black folks in these drama will get the crime and punishment shit before any of these other motherfuckers. So I just kind of feel like with Jonathan Majors, if he's doing the work and he's intentional, I mean, if he doesn't do it again, if he's really doing the work to work on himself, I'm okay with that. But that's different from Chris Brown, right? Where Chris Brown has consistently done shit. Like, y'all keep acting like Rihanna, like 10, 15 years ago was like it. No, Chris Brown has consistently done dumb shit. I think Jonathan Majors, there was a situation. There's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of stuff that's come out since. But the guy, that story, that situation has always been weird to me. I feel like, based on how Jonathan Majors is acting, I don't think it will happen again. I don't know, but it feels like this is not who he is. Like, I just feel like we're not hearing, there just seems to be like that was a moment and we've moved on. Look, if people don't want to fuck with him again, that's your prerogative. I'm curious to see how his career grow. Am I a big super fan like I used to be? Not like I used to be, but I want to see. And I've seen Magazine Dreams. It's coming out on Zeus Network very soon. I really feel like that man was on his way to an Oscar nomination had this shit not happened. I really do believe that. Because he's phenomenal in the film. Like, if we're talking about performance, he did his big one. I really feel like that was Oscar material. And Jonathan Majors' career, the man can act. We could talk about his outside life and his weird clothes and shit, right? But he can act. He's a great actor. He's a better actor than Michael B. Jordan, no shade. And I think he was the closest to being the next big Oscar-winning actor, potentially. Like on a Mahershala Ali type of situation. Lots of potential there. I think Coleman Domingo is now that dude, right? That black actor that's coming on the rise. But I definitely do feel like, as young black actors, I think Jonathan Majors had a really good chance. And so I just, we'll see. We'll see. He's 35 years old. He'll be 36. So we're around the same age. But I'm interested to see how it plays out for him. He addressed some rumors, though. He said Megan Good is not paying his child support. He said that he talked about his being a victim of sexual abuse at a very young age, and how that trauma has impacted him. And I think, he went to Yale. He's went through a lot. And so I do think that there's a redemption arc that's coming for him. And I'm just curious to see how it plays out in Hollywood. Because y'all have been giving a lot of people second chances, okay? When I look at people like I said, Mel Gibson still got an Oscar nomination. And, Woody Allen's still out here doing his thing. A couple of folks. Robert Downey Jr. Now he's an Oscar-winning actor. Y'all still letting Brad Pitt be out here. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. So, yeah. Music. Gaga, her seventh number one album, Mayhem, is number one on the Billboard 200. Not surprised. I told y'all I loved Mayhem a lot, and clearly you all did too. I definitely think Gaga is doing her big one. She saw a lot of good album records and things, so there's some opportunity there. I think there's some opportunity there with that Gaga album. But speaking of things I'm not being too impressed with, Lil Nas X has been dropping a lot of singles. He's still out here putting out music. It's sounding better. I must say the Dream Boy era does have potential. But, we gonna see what it's given there. But Lizzo. So Lizzo did drop her second single. And I told you I predicted the second single was gonna be promising. Promising not. So the new single dropped and it sounds good. It sounds good. But I feel like the issue is that her music is redundant. I thought she was gonna stay on the rock era, but this new song, this new single, Still Hot, Still Fine, whatever it's called, it's just not hitting. It just sounds like about damn time. It sounds like a couple of her songs. And I just feel like she's at this point where she just keeps reducing the same energy. So the song is called Still Bad. And she's acting like it's going to be the song of the summer. It's going to be all these things. I don't see it. This Lizzo in real life, I don't see it. I mean, it might chart and do well, but I just feel like a lot of it is just sounding the same. It's just sounding the same, y'all. I don't know. I mean, has she plateaued? I hope not. I hope not. But that's what it's feeling like. That's what it seems like. I'm not gonna hold you. It just sounds like that's where it's going. In other news, TV. Look, I've been watching Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I know what everybody's been talking about. The Yandy thing. It's just getting messier and messier and messier. It's now going viral. A lot of people are now making a meme of that whole incident that she had with Jessica White with Mendeecees, and now a lot of people are like mocking it online. Listen, I'm still floored, but I do want to talk about one show that I end up watching a little bit of, and y'all didn't even tell me about it, which I get because maybe y'all are not watching it either. But y'all didn't tell me about the Baldwins. This show, The Baldwins, is a hot ass mess. It's a mess. This show's a mess. So you got Hilaria Baldwin, who's been faking his Latino accent, acting like she is, something. The show just dropped not too long ago, but it's so cringy. It's so cringy. It feels semi-staged. The family's eccentric. They play loving, but it's also kind of just like, I don't know, like it's just cringy. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. It's a dreadful reality show. It's a low for reality. I think I'm tired of celebrity reality TV. I think I don't want to see any more reality TV shows of celebrities. Like, it's trying to be the Kardashians type of thing. I don't think we want any more of that. I don't. It's giving East Hampton. It's the split between the Manhattan apartment and East Hampton summer home. They got two nannies. They're talking about growing through problems. It's just, yeah. Mm-mm. Yeah, I'm not, I don't know. Like, Alec Baldwin is playing Jack Donaghy. He's basically playing that character from 30 Rock. It's the same type of shtick. It's so, I don't know. I think it's a fakeness to it. It's obvious that, they're trying to really, the drama, right? The incident that happened on the set. But I think they're trying to really do a lot of image repair. And I think reality shows is a new way for cringy celebrities to try to reset the narrative on themselves. And I did not enjoy it. I did not. I did not. I was not a fan. I tried, just like I tried with the new Real Housewives of Atlanta. I tried with that. Y'all wanted me so badly to eat that up. Baby, I'm good. Hard pass. Not crazy about that either. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there. So this week, we're going to see what this week gives. We're getting a countdown to spring. So much is happening this week. So much that I can't share, but keeping an eye on. Lots of cool opportunities. Couple of events, couple of little previews, little here, a little there, a little razzle here, a little dazzle there. A lot of different stuff coming out his way. But I'm clearly going to be following some of the drama that popped off this weekend, the saga, what's happening in the White House. Let's see if Elon Musk really touched Social Security. Department of Education is in shambles. We'll see. The Democrats have a low favorability rating. They're now at between 9%. They're lower than low. We'll follow it. We'll see what's going on. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.